As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, August 21st, and we're back. Hope everyone's doing well today. I see, we're one. You know what? Hold on. One sub away from 9,000.
Oh, my God. Hold on. Let me get a burner going.
We're there.
We're there. Come on.
I was going to say.
Hey.
There we go.
Come on.
Cover up all the information there.
Let's go. Hey, that's big time. We appreciate all you. 9,000 subscribers, 1,000 away from 10,000. Let's keep it pushing. We got a lot to get to today. College football in the second hour. John Maakaron joining the program like he does every single Wednesday. And, of course, we got Lions news, the biggest one being Sewell, which the world stopped today. The whole world, at least locally.
Jeez, man.
When I got that notification that Sewell went down, and it was a foot injury. And you guys know how this works. Whenever you read somewhere that someone has a foot injury, it can mean a lot of things. Okay, I hate the very generalized, but you're reading into the details. He walked off, by himself. He was limping, and they put some tape on it. And Justin Rogers, shout out to him, and he just tweeted out a little bit ago saying that his inside source with the Lions says he will be fine. But very scary. All right, can we just get to the season? I mean, guys, just hold on. Just hold on. We're almost there. We don't need anyone going down. All right, we're a couple weeks away. We just wrap these guys in bubble wrap. Maybe I don't want to see any starters this weekend. Honestly, just
no.
Where did that come through your mind at? Like, come on, Jeff. What are we doing over there, dude? Today was like it was a bit of like a reality check, a little bit like realism. Is that the word I'm looking for? Realism that people, the smart people use. It's like we've talked about that last year. The Lions' success was based off of, hey, they stayed healthy. You stay healthy for this whole time. Dan Campbell didn't mess up any football games as he has, the first couple of games. He's gotten better as a coach, and you were able to go out there and find success. And Jeff, like as soon as the NFC Championship game was over, the first thing you looked at me, and this is probably not the first thing you want to think of, but it was, hey, I don't know if we're going to be back here again. Like the injuries all year, like we were healthy all year. Like everything worked out in your favor. Now it's like this morning was a little bit of like hey, this is how quick things could happen in this league. Like what's the NFL, the not for long league? People say like anything could happen instantly in the NFL. And like that was a little bit of we got checked up against the wall. Like when you're a kid and someone walked up to you, the bullies in those movies, and they pull you up against a locker, like that's what happened today a little bit. And then he dropped you and said, hey, don't mess with me. And you're like, all right, brother, like let's move on. So it was a little
Booner's going through a childhood trauma memory right now.
There was a little bit of that, and it was just like, all right, so we need to make sure these guys stay healthy, because that's probably the number one most important part about the Detroit Lions' success this season is health. Like, and I think everyone agrees with that. It's like if a Sewell goes down, you're in a bit of trouble. If Jared Goff goes down for a long period of time, guess who's in trouble? The Detroit Lions. Like, you cannot withstand. No team can withstand it. Joe Burrow goes down. Guess what? Bengals season over. Like, it's just that's welcome to the NFL. That happens. Today was a little bit like slap in the face. Wake up.
Yeah, I mean, the most important part of this football team is, one, the offensive line, but the cog in that engine, the guy who makes everything, both in the run and the pass game, sets the tone for this team, even on the defensive side. I don't care what you want to say. They go up against Sewell every day in practice. He sets the tone for Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson sets the tone for him. Sewell is the most important player on this football team. I would say outside of Jared Goff, just because he's the quarterback, like if Sewell to be going down for a game, I would be a little less nervous about that game's outcome compared to if Jared Goff were to go down. But Sewell, especially the type of like player that Sewell is, if he's limping, if he's showing a little bit of pain, it's probably not serious, but it's something that's like legit. Like, hey, this guy's not like exaggerating. Like, no, Panay's going down, he's limping off the field. It's something that's legit. You got to watch. And that's just why I go back to, I don't get why you wait to the last preseason game if you're going to play starters. If you want that, do it in week one, the preseason game week one, so that they have that whole rest of the preseason, that kind of off week to heal up. So Penei Sewell, glad he's going to be okay, but do not play any of those starters. With the way that things are going right now, it's just a matter of time till something bad happens, and I don't want to risk it in the preseason.
I think the reality is what we're going to have to accept. There are going to be injuries. I know last year the Lions got very lucky without having any injuries, and that's just not how it works. Like it's just, I'm talking about significant injuries. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down, and but significant injuries happen. Like this, it's football. You saw last year the amount of quarterbacks that were out. Now, plan for that. Obviously, you hope your quarterback stays healthy, but I'm talking about other players as well, like the offensive line being healthy for majority of all last year, for the most part, maybe some injuries here or there. Like you're very lucky as a football team to have that. And this year that's why depth is going to be so important. And that's why these preseason games, I'm still dialed in watching, because these are guys that potentially could be playing come the regular season. Honestly, I would even make a bet probably will be playing come the regular season. So, hey, even though Colby Sorsdahl had struggled against the Giants, that offensive line looked way better against the Chiefs. Yeah. So that's the things I start to take away. It's like, okay, Giovanni Manu improved, got a little better.
If that's what you want to call it, yeah.
Developed a little bit.
Yeah,
got some PT.
The offensive line played better.
Yeah.
And would you disagree with that?
Yeah, completely agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
I will say this too, like. If Dan Campbell was thinking like to play the starters this Saturday, like he's out of his mind anyway. So like I don't think there was ever a chance. Like he didn't play the starters last year in preseason. Instead, you do joint practices and you go out there and you do a scrimmage like they did today. It just so happened that the scrimmage that they do, because you still like let's cut all the like you still have to get full reps in before the season. Your first 100% hits can't come versus the Los Angeles Rams Sunday Night Football. Like it can't. Like you have to get hit somewhere else, and you have to play 11 on 11 at full speed versus high level people at some point before you just run in week one. Like this is the NFL. Like you have to get those reps in. So like there is going to be injuries in the preseason. Like yeah, you hope that they're not. Like look at Emmanuel Mosley, man. Like that dude just came back from 2 ACLs, torn pec, and then in like preseason he gets that torn pec. Like it's just like it happens, but like you have to hope that it doesn't. That's why I don't know. Like Patrick Mahomes and them playing in the preseason, that's the way Andy Reid does it. You're not going to say don't play him and don't play him in joint practices and don't play him in 11 on 11. Like that's unrealistic. It's just more so like you try and hope that like we've had so many injuries. The Lions have had so many injuries the last few weeks, so many. And you're trying to withstand those and trying to make sure guys are now ready for week one. And I'm sure Penei, they're going to be careful with him, whatever the foot is, so he's ready week one. And same with like the Jahmyr Gibbs situation. But it is what it is, man. That was tough. If he would have gone down, like you're not. I don't even want to think about it. To be honest,
Detroit Lions are not the Detroit Lions without Penei Sewell. That's their identity. He's the culture. He's the tone setter. He's the guy that was drafted 7th overall, first pick in Brad Holmes to kind of set the tone of what this team's gonna be built on. So with no Penei Sewell, I mean, you look at what the 49ers were, they were shelling themselves without Trent Williams, and I think it'd be even more so with Penei Sewell just because Jared Goff isn't as mobile as Brock Purdy. So I think Penei Sewell goes hand in hand with Jared Goff, and quarterback's the most important position in the NFL and sports in general, I think. When you look at just how important the Lions make running the ball, Penei Sewell is just, his value can't be stated. I really don't think it can be.
I think the 4 guys that you put in a separate category of like just cannot absolutely afford to lose would be Jared Goff by far number 1.
Yes.
And I would say the next 3 are clearly Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You just can't lose any of those guys. Given how much they mean, like Aiden, especially on the edge, you're not as confident. Amon-Ra St. Brown, talk about the wide receiver core every day. Penei Sewell, even though they have a good offensive line, like you said, Klotz, he sets the tone. So those 4 guys, man, just keep those guys healthy as possible.
Penei Sewell's been an Iron Man too. Like, I don't know. Like I'm looking at his games so far. Like rookie year, 16 out of 16 games. Second year in 2022, 17 out of 17. 2023, this last season, 17 out of 17, and played in all 3 playoff games. Like, he has not missed a game in his career yet, going into his 4th season. So you see that injury, and you're like, oh, but like if he's going to be fine, like he's been a guy that's been able, like he banged up. All right, he comes back. banged up, figure it out. Aiden Hutchinson, same thing. He gets banged up. Remember last year when he got the interception, gets hit on the leg with the helmet, and he barely can walk for 3 weeks. And he struggles for the next 3 weeks, but guess what? He's out there and getting pressures. Same with Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff gets banged up, guess what? He's going to find a way to be out there. Amon-Ra, what did he do last year? Played through whatever that injury was that he had last year and went out there and still produced. And like that's your core. That's what is Dan Campbell? That's your core, man. That's your core.
Yeah.
We're building around.
Steve says, boys, does this bring up a crucial argument to go out either in this upcoming draft or free agency to grab a legit backup for Sewell?
I will say that
line depth in general, like Frank Ragnow, you need somebody for him. I mean, Kevin Zeitler's probably going to be out the door. I think I would put it like this: in the first round of the NFL draft, I pray to God the Lions go offensive line. Yep. I prefer offensive line even over like a defensive end, to be honest.
I mean, you'd have to guarantee within the first 2 rounds next year you take an offensive lineman. Guaranteed it. Like you have developmental guys on the back end right now. You don't have legit dudes that can step in. This offensive line. And you know what? People were mad. I said it 2 months ago with Taylor Decker when we were talking about going to get someone in this draft. People were mad at me because they were like, well, Taylor Decker's still here. And we were talking about his contract. Well, guess what? Taylor Decker is only in this league for so much longer. Frank Ragnow is only going to be playing for so much longer. Penei Sewell has a long career ahead of him. But, like, you have guys you need to replace. So, and if a guy goes down, you still need a backup. So there's, like, you need to go out and get a dude next year. Like you have to.
Before we move on, because we're going to get into some different topics regarding the Detroit Lions. We, of course, have John on, so we got a packed show. Steve said this, and shout out to Steve, man. He's been purchasing a lot of merch. Supporting the
Steve.
Steve says merch showed up today for my birthday. Great gift to myself. Steve, hey, and I got an announcement to make. I know Roman's in the chat. We have another item on the store, and this item, boys, check this out. So it's our Crunch Time Sports, and we got it in 2. I mean, we either have it in the crew neck or the T-shirt. But look at this.
Give me the crew
neck.
Oh
my gosh.
Oh my.
The back of it. I mean, the back, front, and back. You can get it in white or black. And they have.
Can I just make a request? Can instead of a crew neck, can we also do long sleeves?
Yeah,
just like a long sleeve tee. Because like, who wears a crew neck these days? Like, what are we doing?
I'm gonna be
I
honest.
have a crew neck on right now, Booner.
It's unbelievable. Grandparents and old people,
I love
old
crew
people
necks.
wear crew necks.
No, now you're getting excessive. Just because you don't wear crew necks doesn't mean the people don't wear crew necks.
My like girlfriend in high school rocked a crew neck like every day.
There's
like,
another one.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'll give me a
and
long sleeve or a t-shirt.
We have that same design and also a t-shirt. So, yeah, we'll you know what? We'll get a long sleeve. That's a great idea. Hey, fall's coming. We're gonna get
my bad, Klotz. I didn't know you had one on there. Didn't mean to call you out. It's on me.
I got a lot. Does anyone else wear crew? I got a lot of crew necks.
A lot of people in the chat saying they wear crew necks.
Like a crew neck.
A lot of weird people out there.
A
lot of weird.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. I wanted to show that off. So get your merch. Obviously, the link is in the description. The best way to support us, besides what you guys do every day, which is tuning into the show. That's the biggest thing. Let's get into practice. I know John was messaging us. They were at practice today. Defense dominated.
Yeah.
Jared Goff struggled a little bit. Defense looked very, very good. That's a good sign. I saw that Mitchell. Is it Agude?
Agude.
Is it Agude? Okay. I'm hearing different pronunciations. I wasn't sure. Agude. He's playing Sam linebacker. All right. They got him playing
he's balling out a defensive end. You know what that means. Time to move him to Sam, baby. It's the natural development here in Detroit.
I will say the thing that I do like about this is Agude was a linebacker move to edge.
Yeah.
Usually, Klotz, they do edge. They move him to Sam.
Hey,
you see what I'm saying?
To be fair,
I'm more open with this.
To be fair, guys, he played Sam last week, I'm pretty sure, in the game, and he looked good doing that. So this wasn't a change that happened in the last 2 days. I think when James Houston got moved after the horrendous showing in week 1 in a preseason game for a guy that's supposed to be the next best thing for the Detroit Lions, as people say these days. And just looked horrendous. As soon as that game was over, I think last week, they said, hey, Mitchell Agude looked really good. We're going to put him at Sam. And I think they also were playing Isaac Uku at Sam for a little bit. So, like, you're just sitting there. I think they're just sitting there like, hey, who can be behind Derek Barnes? Like Derek Barnes is, I think he's a lock. Like Aaron Glenn, and I'll give him all the credit in the world. And I think he should have done this last year. You should Derek Barnes should have been your Sam last year, and you should have let just Jack Campbell develop in his righteous position in the middle as a linebacker last year. Like you never needed to have Jack Campbell in that Sam spot. So I think now, like you have your best players on the field now. You have Jack Campbell, Anzalone, and Derek Barnes. And you're going to have those guys on the field consistently. So I'm not worried. And yeah, if Derek Barnes goes down or he needs a rep here and there to take off, all right, you got Mitchell Agude now. That almost guarantees me. Not going to lock it in, but I can almost say Mitchell Agude will make the roster if he is in that spot. And he has been playing very, very good. So at the end of the day, like you need a backup behind Derek Barnes for that Sam position, and you need edge depth. So like there you go. There you have it.
Do you
That's
guys like? And I understand the thought process, but like, and I'm not really disagreeing with what they're trying to do because you need to find a backup for Barnes. But
yeah,
it feels like this is just repetitive at this point. I would much rather them just at some point just go get a guy, even if it's for depth. Like when it comes to just get a guy who's played Sam linebacker. I just feel like you're seeing a guy like you would rather like see them via the draft or free agency, get a guy who's just better and played the spot before.
Well, I mean, at some point, it's like, and this isn't at you, Klotzy, but this is like a lot of like football fans or Lions fans of their team. It's just like, yeah, like with wide receiver, that's I feel like a conversation we could be like, we can go get someone because there's a lot of. It's just like for every position, we can't be like, let's just go get someone. Let's go get someone. Let's go, no, like you have to develop it. Then you have you don't need someone because you have Derek Barnes doing it. Like I don't think Sam position is like a position where you're like, we need big time depth there. Like, no, like you probably you can use a Agude on the edge as an edge rusher, but then also if Derek Barnes goes down, you can rotate. Or if he goes down and you really can't rotate, all right, let's get Jack back at Sam and we can bring Rodrigo in for Jack. Like there is, I get what you're saying, but like the Devin White thing. Devin White, you don't need to bring him in because he's going to be a starter. And it's like you have like Derek Barnes has been the best player in camp, and you're just going to take that. It's just unrealistic conversations to me. That's all it is.
Hey, go on, Klotz.
I just like it's, and I agree with you, but like it's nothing where like it need to be hard pressed over. It's just at some point I feel like it almost takes away from the player because if they're drafted as a defensive lineman, they're succeeding as a defensive lineman, and now you're changing their positions. I'd rather see the guys that are defensive line stay defensive linemen and develop and like emergency situations do it, but just like a guy that's just been an off-ball linebacker for a long time. Not even a long time, but even in college, I feel like that just creates a lot more transparency along that front seven. You don't got to worry about moving guys around. It's like, all right, Derek's back up here. Malcolm's back, or not Malcolm. Ando's back up, Malcolm. Jack Campbell's back up, Germ. Like, I just think that would just help a lot of problems in the front seven.
When you're looking at the 53-man, though, it's like you have to find ways to supplement other positions. Like Dan has said that a million times the last couple of days. People just keep throwing questions at him. It's like, all right, how many times are we going to ask the same questions sometimes with some people? Shout out to Doc, who thinks really far outside the box with questions. But like, yeah, like Dan's not going to change his answer on the 53-man essentially. And he's like, hey, if we need depth over here and we can play him in a different position.
Well,
that's where it comes down to me.
I mean, I think the Lions got an absolute steal in Rashad Wild Goose. Goose. Hey, I looked at this tweet today. I was like, Rashad Wild Goose. And I had to like read it a couple times. I'm like, Rashad Wild Goose. Like I kept saying it to me. Like, this is awesome. And I saw like Sean, shout out Sean from Half Court. He like quote tweet or he like responded to Colton Pouncey's tweet and said like, you should put him as returner. Then it would really be a wild goose chase. And I'm like, I was, you know what? That's a dad joke, and I loved it. But he is they shine Wild Goose. Shout out Wild Goose. Top five name was Squirrel White. We talked about Squirrel White.
Squirrel White's a good one, yeah.
So yeah, you know what? Mitchell Agude, it'll be interesting. Everywhere I've read with him, it's he's a natural defensive end. So, it is out of position for him, but we'll see. He played pretty well last week. If it doesn't work, I think we have our answer of like, hey, maybe we got to go get someone that maybe could actually back up Derek Barnes and not someone that isn't a natural Sam linebacker, but we'll see. Maybe he thrives. That would be his way to making the roster.
Yeah, they've been trying to find that, to Booner's point, with Matty Betts, James Houston. I'm sure other players they've tried out and I haven't really talked about. And they're just like, yeah, this is not going to work. So there's just a revolving door, it seems like.
I don't think it, but like, again, to that, like, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't think like they were doing that so they had depth there. I think it was more so it's like they're trying to like find spots for people to make the team. So it's like, hey, we can play you here as well.
Yeah, no, that's what we're just saying. Like, it's like I'm agreeing with Jeff and saying how that very well could be the way that he makes the team, because of Matthew Betts. Probably wasn't going to make it as a defensive end. Obviously, they weren't going to try to do him at Sam. So they tried to move him to Sam. He can't do it. James Houston, they tried to experiment with that with a while. He can't do it. So there's a clear spot that's open at the Sam if Derek Barrs go down. If Agude is able to step up this week against the Steelers, they're probably going to run the ball a little bit. I've imagined Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are going to play a good amount. If he can make some plays, that's roster spot most likely.
So, hey, James Houston, real quick.
Practice squad at the bare minimum.
I'm just going to say this with James Houston. Hey, just want to throw it out. Tomorrow I will have a proposal to get rid of James Houston. I'm going to tease that a little bit. But it seems like a lot of people, after I called James Houston out and say, hey, maybe let's move on from James Houston, there's a lot of people out there that are talking about James Houston now. I was just throw that out there. It was a hot take at first from me, but now everyone else is doing it. It's okay. I have a proposal tomorrow. The real person will bring a proposal tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, the
Shout
James
out.
Houston, it's heating up. Where there's smoke, there's some fire. I don't know. We'll see. But something to pay attention to. We're gonna do something before we get to John, because I got some interesting, something different today we can do. The first one is a question I want to ask you guys and ask the chat. And I guess this is something that I would like you to kind of I guess your definition of it. I mean, we could talk about it now. Like when we ask, if I were to ask you who was the biggest steal of this offseason, are we going free agency? Are we going draft? How are we phrasing this?
I think just both. Like you could do either or. It doesn't have to be both. Just either it could be through the draft or through a free agent signing. Like where's the best value, you think?
Yeah,
so
mine is
steal of the Detroit Lions offseason. What do you got, Boone?
Mine's a little more out of, and I didn't even think about, honestly, I thought about free agency. And what I ended up going to, honestly, the biggest steal of this offseason, I think it's pretty obvious. What's been the one just downfall of this Detroit Lions team, not just last year, but for like 2022, 2021. And they used a very high draft pick, number 2 overall pick a few years ago, on a kid named Jeff Okudah. And the Lions have been chasing a corner and to have a good secondary for years now. And I think the biggest steal for Brad Holmes in this offseason and just honestly bringing in anyone in the Detroit Lions organization as a whole, I think it has to be Terrion Arnold. Like Terrion Arnold was projected to be a top 15 pick. On most people's draft boards, he was the best secondary player, the best corner, and he was supposed to go at 12. He was supposed to go at 11, at 13, 4. Like he was supposed to go in that range. And he started to drop, and Brad noticed it. And when you get to 24, Brad goes, I'm going to get this kid. And I think like when you look at it, like knowing that, hey, there's a massive problem in our secondary room, and we need to find a solution to it, and not just like a one-year solution. Like you need to build something up, just like he's built up with this offense with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell, like guys on rookie contracts who you're able to go out there and like you don't have to worry about signing for 4 or 5 years, and they're going to be an all-pro player. Terrion Arnold's going to be an all-pro corner at some point in his career for the Lions. And you have him for the next 4 or 5 years on a rookie deal. And he was able to get a number 1 corner at 24 overall, and essentially not having to give up that much to trade up. Like that's your corner. Like I get the Carlton Davis, and Carlton might sign, who knows? But like when Terrion gets going, you just got like Chicago has Jalen Johnson, like the Broncos have Patrick Surtain, the Packers have Jair Alexander. You have your corner now, like your long-term solution. And I think that's the biggest steal. And you were able to get him at 24. Like there was zero chance. If I would have asked anyone in this chat leading up to the NFL draft, if there was any chance that Terrion Arnold even fell past 20, I think every single person would say no. Mm-hmm. And Brad Holmes got him at 24. Like it's unheard of what happened and the way the draft worked out to where you're able to get the best corner. Essentially, I know we had Quinyon Mitchell, Jeff, as our number 1, but it was basically 1A, 1B. And there was nothing else to it. Like Terrion's going to end up being a Pro Bowler, and at some point of his career, he'll be an All-Pro. And hopefully that's within that 4-year spans when you have him on a rookie deal, and you have him cheaper than you would have to go out and pay. What is Jalen Johnson? What was his deal? $15 to $20 million. So you have him more than you have to go pay a guy like that to come in free agency and take that QB, that CB1 spot. So I think that's the biggest steal, because it's not just like a steal for this year. Like, this is a franchise steal, like a franchise changing defensive steal. And then that's kind of how I looked at it.
At first I was kind of like, would you really call that a steal? But then when, to your point, when you break down the draft and you realize that Terrion Arnold was on the board at 24, when I thought he could have easily been like a top 10 pick to the Raiders, I think some people thought. He could have went to the Colts. He could have went to the Saints. I didn't think there was any way he was making it outside the top 15, let alone the top 20. So when you start breaking that down, I really do love that take, because All-Pro, I think, he's got all the potential, want to see it a little bit, but he is everything to make up being the number one corner to go along with a guy like Ennis Rakestraw. So, like, let's say Carlton Davis leaves. I don't think anybody in Detroit wants him to leave after this season, because I think when you give up a third-round pick, you want more than just 1 year. But if he leaves, you're still in good hands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, real quick, too, like, if he leaves, we can even talk about another, so I don't want to take anyone's other one.
No, you're good.
Like,
keep going.
If Carlton Davis leaves and Terrion Arnold becomes – and, like, the only reason Carlton Davis would leave and you don't re-sign him is because you know Terrion's going to be CB1, and he's like this year he goes out there and balls out. He does the complete opposite of what Jeff Okudah did in Detroit. Like, he actually goes out there and performs and shows you can do something. And if he does that, you literally have your corner one, a position that, like, you just saw the Chiefs have to go through that with L'Jarius Sneed, and like just problems where you have to pay this guy. You have him extremely cheap on a rookie deal, and then guess what you have behind him? You have Ennis Rakestraw, who they're playing him outside, and he could step in as CB2. And you have two guys there now on a rookie deal, and two elite corners who can be very, very good in the NFL. Brad in his corners this offseason was unbelievable.
So I see me and Klotzy.
Good. No, go. Yeah. I got my number 2. Don't you?
All right. And I think this is going to be the biggest steal, because it is someone that I believe will be playing nickel. I've been saying it for about a month now when we've had the conversation, and looking at what he got in terms of money, I'm gonna go with my guy Amik Robertson. I think he's going to be one of the bigger steals, and I'll tell you why. He's going to start at nickel, and I think Amik in a secondary that was so bad last year, and he's going to help there, obviously. But more than that, Brian Branch moving to safety, he was so good at nickel that you're looking for someone to step up. I think that's going to be Amik Robertson. So I think for me, at least in free agency, I mean, the draft, and we could probably get to that too, because I have one for the draft, and we'll see if Klotz has it too. But at least for free agency, in terms of value, in terms of the player, I think Amik Robertson's severely underrated, and you got away with paying him not a lot of money. So I think Amik Robertson for me is one of the biggest, will be and is one of the biggest steals this offseason for how much he'll mean to this team come the regular season and the postseason. Dude's a competitor, works his ass off. Only corner, at least I know, that I maybe I'm just blinded by Lions, that catches balls on the jugs machine. Absolute psycho. So that would be the guy I'll go with, Amik Robertson.
I will say that was I have 2 honorable mentions. Amik was one of my honorable mentions, so I'm glad you said that, because if my second honorable mention doesn't get brought up, I will bring him up.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm fighting between 2 here, because I think the free agency one definitely would have been Amik, and then I didn't really think about Terrion in the draft, but Booner, like I said, great points. I want to say Vaki, boys, I really do. But if you're saying the ultimate steal, it's the guy I've been hyping up for like the last week. It's Isaiah Williams. Long-term wise, I think when you look at it, that's your Khalif Raymond replacement. I think he's a lock to make the team. I absolutely do. I think even this year, he might not be the most productive guy, but I think he is going to make timely plays for the Detroit Lions. I could see him having like 200 receiving yards, but just when you watch the guy play, yeah, I know it's preseason. I know it's against 2s and 3s, but when he's playing against 2s and 3s, he looks like he's a 1. And when you see that coming from an undrafted rookie out of Illinois who really doesn't throw the ball that much, you don't have that much good quarterback play. Isaiah Williams, guys, I just think is just a wide receiver in the NFL. Not going to be a Pro Bowler, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be a reliable third down target. He's going to catch the ball when it's thrown to him. He's going to run good routes. And as he progresses in this offense, even when Ben Johnson leaves, I think he's just going to be a guy that you watch kind of develop, A, with Hendon Hooker, and B, with Jared Goff. And I think obviously Jared Goff is more important, but he's just going to be a friendly wide receiver for Jared Goff to be around. And that's what Jared Goff needs, a wide receiver that he can trust. Isaiah Williams, not the biggest player, not the fastest player, but he's intelligent and he knows how to make plays. And I think he's going to be doing that for a long time on an undrafted free agent deal. So I think that's when I think of a steal. I think he's the biggest steal. He won't have the most production, but long term, I think he's going to pan out for this team.
Yeah. I mean, undrafted free agent to being any level of productive. Yeah. That's an amazing steal. Well, about a quarter of the league, I want to say, is undrafted. Could be. I don't know if that's exact, but there's a good amount of guys that are undrafted.
Yeah, I think there's a handful. There's like a 20-something% or something. Yeah, something like that.
So it definitely can happen.
Hey, I just have one honorable mention. Do you guys have any honorable mention, or do you want me to hit it?
Mine were said, so I'm not going to repeat it. But anybody you can mention. Anyone.
So the last guy I had basically three guys. I had my main guy, obviously Terron Arnold, and then Amik Robertson as honorable mention. Last honorable mention I had, it wasn't a player, so I didn't go with this guy.
I like where you're going with this.
There's one guy I feel like that there was like a massive need. Obviously, there was a secondary, but I'm just thinking on defensively. The biggest thing that was like, hey, this is a problem. And there's been no development. I said it last year that what they needed to do in that defensive line group, like Dan Campbell needed to go in there and Brad Holmes, and they needed to just fire every single defensive lineman besides Aleem McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson and say, let's move on and let's go actually get some guys who want to play football in there. Like, let's do that. And shout out Tom Izzo in the chat. Go blue, Tom Izzo, but shout out Tom Izzo. It is not Isaac Ukwu. I wish it was Isaac Ukwu. I'm going to go the coach that coaches the Isaac Ukwu.
Yeah,
I'm going to go Terrell Williams.
Like
Terrell Williams, guys. And I think this is the biggest thing. Like one of the biggest moves that Dan made on his staff this offseason was like, and he's done this for years now, as he's able. You remember the Aubrey Pleasant thing? Shout out Aubrey Pleasant going out there and becoming or being, the head coach last weekend for the Rams. But you just look at like different situations with these head coach, like these positional groups. Dan's has not been afraid to let guys go if they're not working out. And he did that this last year, and he brought in Terrell Williams and said, hey, we need this defensive line to work out. And they let go of the Okwara brothers, and they moved on from a couple other guys. And they ended up staying with Josh Pascal, Levi bringing in DJ Reader. The thing that Terrell Williams, though, this offseason, like, you're seeing a massive jump in Aleem McNeil. Aiden Hutchinson now is going to be a defensive player of the year because he's been working with Terrell Williams. You go over on the other side of the ball, Levi Who would have thought that Levi Onwuzurike would have been a guy this offseason where, like, yeah, he's going to be an absolute dog this year? Not me. And it's all, I think, credit to Terrell Williams. Like, Terrell's gone in there and has completely, like, all of these guys that are coming in, Mekhi Wingo, Isaac Ukwu, Mitchell Agude, you would hope James Houston, but like all these guys are learning under Terrell Williams, and their careers are going to just blossom, and they're going to end up being like, you're going to see this defensive line group in the next 2 or 3 years be extremely, extremely good. And it's just going to be because of this guy. Like, he knows he's the best in the NFL. Like, if we're talking about a steal in the NFL or the Detroit Lions, like them getting the best defensive line coach in the entire NFL in that room is like, that has to be like one of the biggest.
I love it. I love that. And I think I see a lot of people chiming in. Austin says, I'm just shocked it isn't Matty Betts. I mean,
one that
Matty Betts. Hey, Austin, come on now. Still has a chance.
Surprised I didn't really pop into my mind even until just now. I think Kevin Zeitler definitely needs some love there. Can you consider the fact that he's a high ranking offensive guard in the NFL, not like one of the premier ones, but he's definitely a top 10 guard in the NFL. You lose Jonah Jackson, you get him for a 1-year deal, and it's not that expensive. I think that's a very slept on deal as well. So that's definitely an honorable mentions.
Well, I do want to bring this up, and I think we're going to have some fun with this. And we're going to do something called More Likely, Detroit Lions edition. Jared Goff, we're going to have him involved in this. And I'm going to ask a question basically, and it's going to be, I'm going to give you 2 scenarios. You tell me what's more likely. All right. I'll give you 2. You say this or that kind of thing. Okay. So the first, before we get Doc on, I think we're going to have fun with this. First one I have, Jared Goff to get an MVP vote, or Aiden Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year. Remember,
that's a good one.
Which one is more likely? Jared Goff to get an MVP vote or Aiden Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year? I
You wanna
thought
start,
about
Booner, or
this
you want me to
earlier.
go
It's tough.
first?
Jeff, you go. You can go first this time here. I'm gonna try and.
I can go because
All
I
right.
already have this one. For me, I think it'd be definitely Goff getting an MVP vote. I think Aiden Hutchinson absolutely has the potential, but I just think kind of how Patrick Mahomes has the MVP unlocked this year, TJ Watt has Defensive Player of the Year unlocked this year. I don't see a world outside of injury that TJ Watt doesn't win it. And I think even a guy like Max Crosby's in a very similar situation. He just got Christian Wilkins. So if I had to pick two players I think are going to win Defensive Player of the Year, I'd go TJ Watt, Max Crosby, and I think that's where I'll start to tier Hutch. I think Hutch is in like the Nick Bosa category. Can Hutch do it? I definitely think there's a chance, but I just think there's a higher chance that Goff gets one MVP vote. This is like Boone's narratives fighting each other right now.
Yeah, it's both of the things that I said are going to happen is Hutch wins Defensive Player of the Year and Goff gets a vote. So Jeff, I'll let you go. I'll finish it off here. I'll go last.
So I agree. I really struggle with this one because the reason why I struggled is I think Hutch is going to one day win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know if it'll be this season. I think he's just got the skill set to do it one day. But I think what's more likely, having faith in an offense that we already know is explosive and we know that Goff will put up numbers. Now, I don't mean to be that guy, but I don't think either are going to happen. But if I had to say one will happen over the other, it'll be Goff getting one MVP vote. So that's where I'm at with those two. It's a tough question. I mean, I'm not. I'm gonna go Goff MVP vote.
So this is what I'm gonna do
this season.
Boone's gonna try to make this work somewhere.
I'm gonna be honest with the people. Have I ever lied to the people? No. Will I ever lie to the people? No. I'm always honest with the people. That's where the Booner path comes from. That I'm honest with the people, while other people love to lie to the listeners and they love to lie to fans. Like that's how it is. There are people on air who love to do that. I'm not saying you two do that. I'm just saying.
No,
I'm going to be honest though. Jared Goff has a very, very good chance this year, in my opinion, in my take, that to go out there and get an MVP vote. I think he has a very, very good chance. If I've said the narrative is written itself. If it's the same thing as Brock Purdy last year. If you're on a 13-win football team and you put up 4,500 plus yards and you have 35 touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions and you're on the best team in all of football, your quarterback essentially is going to be in the conversation come down the stretch. And then especially when it comes to week 17 versus the 49ers, you're sitting there and you're going, all right, MVP race, who is it? Well, Jared Goff has a game versus the best team in football outside the Chiefs and the 49ers. So he has a chance to go out there and prove himself on national television that him and the Detroit Lions are the best team in football. And if they go and do that, my take is that Jared Goff will be a finalist for MVP. He'll be for one of the final three. Now, the narrative with Aiden Hutchinson and Defensive Player of the Year. Klotz, I'm going to use your points, and I'm going to flip it against you here. Okay. Aiden Hutchinson is in the tier of Nick Bosa, of TJ Watt, Michael Parsons. He is now supposed to take that step into that category this year.
Yeah.
Jared Goff is not in the conversation with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. But Aiden Hutchinson is in the conversation as the best player, a top 5. By the end of this season, he will be a solidified top 5 edge rusher in the entire NFL with the Bosa brothers and with Nick Bosa and with TJ Watt and Micah Parsons and those guys. Like, he will be in that conversation. And the fact that he is already in that conversation now and he is top 5 and voted for Defensive Player of the Year, if this defense is top 10 defense in the NFL and at the same time the Lions are the best team in all of football and they go out there and get 13 wins, I think it is more likely that Aiden Hutchinson has 15 to 17 sacks or is potentially on his way to leading the NFL in sacks and going out there and dominating than Jared Goff, to get that MVP vote. I think Hutch could go out there and win Defensive Player of the Year if it came down to it. If the Lions are 13 wins, Hutch is already supposed to be a top 6 edge rusher. I think we had him at 6 when we did it. It's Hutch. It's Aiden Hutchinson to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, he is fighting. Like, he is in the conversation already right now as of a month ago when I came out and said that he is going to win it. He is in the conversation for that. Jared Goff is not an MVP conversation like Patrick Mahomes is. Aiden Hutchinson is in the same conversation with Michael Parsons. That's a fact. So I'm gonna have to go Hutch. It's
You're
I
going
think it's a
Hutch?
clear answer, to be honest. I get your guys are saying one vote,
No,
and
no,
and I think you guys have to respect a little bit because both of those are both of my takes. So there has to be a little bit of a respect factor
well,
if I
how
go
about
one way.
how about I tell you this? You know who got an MVP vote last year? I was just looking. One. A lot of guys had different votes because there are, I think, a lot of guys that vote for MVP, like the media. Like there's like AP MVP and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Myles Garrett got a single vote, but he was like last. You know, he was like last place. I think Stroud did too, like a single vote. So like, you know, no one talks about that. Like I think he can get a vote.
I agree.
You know,
No,
what I mean?
I agree with you. It's just tough. I think both happened, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough. The only thing, like, because you're right, Booner. Like, I think Aiden Hutchinson will be in that conversation. It's just he's not yet. And I look at, like, if you've, and not saying you, but if people have, like, been tuning into Raiders camp at all, like, the amount of noise, especially just within joint practices that Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby are making right now, Max Crosby has had no one. He's had less help than Aiden Hutchinson. So that's why I just think TJ Watt should have won it last year. I think people are going to remember that. I think TJ Watt's going to have a TJ Watt season. If he does lock it up self-storage, he's going to get it. And I think Hutchins could possibly even be like a top 3 defensive end in football this year. Like he's going to take that jump. I believe it. I just don't think this is the year where it results in a defensive player of the year, him winning it. He's definitely going to get votes. I'm not going to deny that. But I think like after this year, when you can really see what this team turns into, this front seven gets a little bit better. I think next year is when Hutch brings that home.
I think the better question, to be honest, because like you said, Jeff, like Goff could get one single vote. The better question, honestly, would probably would have been
Finalist.
Yeah, like a top 3 finalist. Like, is he going to be in the NFL awards for it, or is Hutch going to go there and win it? Like that, I feel like that's a little bit more closer because, like, yeah, you guys are all right. Like, Goff is going to get if they're 13-win team and he puts up the stats better than he did last year, essentially he's probably going to get a vote. Like, someone in the media is going to be like, yeah, and like the AP poll, they're going to be like
the doc.
Yeah,
it'll be the doc.
You have to give it to him. So
the doc is the one. Yeah, it's you know, and I'm checking the poll right now. It's live. More likely to happen: Goff gets an MVP vote or Hutch wins Defensive Player of the Year. 68% of the people are going with Hutch to win Defensive Player of the Year. 32% are going with Goff gets a single MVP vote. Which I don't hate that you're high on Hutch this year. I mean, Hutch is gonna have a big year. I mean, I agree with you. I just think probably a little easier to get like an MVP vote. I really don't think either are going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be that guy. I've already made that clear. But more likely, I could see someone just being like, yeah, he's MVP. I think this guy's
MVP. It just takes one vote.
Yeah.
One vote.
Hey, I'm going to stick on my narrative. Like, obviously, both of those.
But you say both, Boone. You've been with both. Yeah,
and I've stood on business with both of them. I just I do think like there's a really good chance of Aiden Hutchinson. And it sounds crazy. People, you're crazy. Like, no, I think there's a good chance Aiden Hutchinson can go lead the NFL in sacks this year. Like the way he's been playing in camp and what people are saying about him and how much better he has progressed year after year after year. Like, this feels like that jump year for him. Like, he had 11.5 last year. He led the whole NFL playoffs in sacks last season as well. And he ended with 14.5 total with counting the playoffs. So like he goes out there and plays like he did to end the year and puts it together for a full season, he's going to go out there and get 15 plus sacks easily. And then he's just sitting there. He's a couple sacks away from leading the NFL. So I don't think it's that crazy.
Yeah, but we shall see how this all ages. I see people. Bond J says, Jeff, your Bears fandom is showing. Yeah, I'll never live.
Hutch ain't getting a sack when Darnell Wright's line up across.
Yeah, no.
Fast answer.
No. JT Olson says only Lions fans put Hutch in the same tier as Bosa or Watt. Hutch is more in the Danielle Hunter, Trey Hendrickson tier, and I don't think he's top of that tier.
Well, JT Olson, to be fair, we've talked about this before, and like this is where we've talked about how Hutch is in that second tier, but after this season, he will put himself in that next tier. Like, as of right now, today, yeah, he's probably in the second tier. I would put him at the high end of the second tier, just next up. And if you want to argue that, we can go look at the sports books, where the sports books as well agree with us, to where he is literally, there's those 5 guys, and then there's Aiden Hutchinson. So like the odds will tell you that. But by the end of this year, like, I think after this year, he goes out there and gets 15, he's automatically up in that category. I think there's some people who might hate him a little bit and don't want to admit that, but that's, I feel like, the truth.
Yeah, I think he is in that tier. I think he's rising. But I do think like Hendrickson, I'm going to be honest. Like if you told me Hendrickson, Hendrickson or Hutchinson, I would take Hutch. Daniil Hunter, they're probably on the same level, I think, as of right, like about to be. I think this year Hutch will be kind of on that same level. But I wouldn't put him in TJ Watt's tier. I mean, TJ Watt's like, dude.
Ben doing it.
Yeah, like 20 plus sacks, dude. I mean, like,
when I think of like Hutch, I think of like Brian Burns and Josh Allen. Like that's the tier I think of. Like Trey Hendrickson, I would say, he's under. Like I at this point, Trey Hendrickson is not as good as Aiden Hutchinson. No, I like Hendrickson, top 10 defensive end for sure.
Hey, after Doc, we have to get that last one in once we do the interview here, because that last one, you guys did my narrative, and I went out there and I made up my own, and I did your guys' narrative essentially. Well, Klotz's narrative.
I'm excited.
That's fair. Well, let's bring on the doc. It is Wednesday, day 45.
Legend.
John Maakaron comes in the show.
The doc
continues to bless the boys. And of course, as always, this is brought to you guys by BetUS. And please welcome Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated's own and host of the Detroit Sports Podcast, Mr. John Maakaron. Look at Mr. John, the doc, the DOC legend. How you doing, Doc?
Man, you're talking to the happiest reporter in town. Man, a month of training camp. I can't wait to talk about it. First, we get to celebrate. Sewell is all good, so that's a good sign. And I got these two. The crowd has messaged. They said, drop the Coors Light, drop the American. They said, bust out the Modelo for crunch time. I said, no problem. Let's see if I get through the two while we talk about Detroit Lions football. Cheers to a great month that just happened. Detroit Lions football. There's nobody happier right now than the DOC.
I have no doubt you'll finish both of those probably within the first 15 minutes of us talking here.
Yeah, he's
absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. Doc, I gotta ask you. I know you were there at practice, and you can touch on the Sewell stuff. I mean, we saw the reporting now. At the time, it was a little nerve-wracking, but seeing your guys reporting and seems fine at this point, nothing serious. What are some of your takeaways? You don't got to go through, but maybe your biggest takeaways from today's practice and how the team's trending, kind of heading one day closer to the regular season and one day closer to the preseason game this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the situation in which the football team that's primed for the Rams game. And look, they still got a couple more evaluations that they need to do against the Steelers. And look, the scrimmage on Wednesday was great. You got to see the ones versus the ones. You got to see the defense really take it to the Detroit Lions offense. So I look at this football team that is primed and ready to go. I thought one of my favorite stories from today on Lions on SI was Dan Campbell said, look, this evaluation is going to be tough. This football team is going to let go of a lot of good football players. And I expect a handful of them to get picked up from other teams. And that's the tough spot. There's only really 6 to 7 open spots on this football team. And it just goes to show you that you probably, and others have done it as well, you probably can tell who's made the roster. So this is a football team that's ready to go. The defense has really stepped it up and brought the noise, and they're doing it without Terry Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. So I just thought that today's practice on Wednesday really showcased what this football team's about. Did you guys read about the defensive line? Literally, it was the Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson show the last couple of days, and it's just really great to see the opportunity that this football team has. And like I said, today's going to be a lot about optimism. I'm excited. There's going to be drinks flowing. I'm very happy. We'll recap it as well. It was a great training camp, start to finish, to look at this football team. I'm excited. I think it's time to ramp up the optimism that this football team, when it's done, the next step is, okay, who's on the 53-man roster? Who are the final 5 to 6 pieces? But when it gets done, it's going to be exciting because it's a roster that if they stay healthy, it's going to make some noise. And I can tease something. Sports Illustrated has sent me a document, and it's going to release tomorrow, their NFL preview. It will show up on Sports Illustrated National, and it will show up on the Lions on SI site. And I promise it'll be 2, 3, 4 Modelos when you read this document. I couldn't believe it. I've read it. It is great. You're going to love it. Stay tuned to Sports Illustrated Lions on SI tomorrow. It's going to be a fun time, baby.
Love it.
The doc is in his bag right now. I love this. Is
I
unbelievable.
would say so.
You're putting up. You're putting up a 50-piece performance right now. This is an all-star
We're gonna keep
performance.
up. Let's go. I don't like
You're
to
going to
mess
go
around.
more
I just
than
wanna
2.
Get down to business, baby. Let's go. Number 2. Boom.
Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Here we go, Doc. Let's go. Hey, I want to ask you this, Doc. One of the biggest. I know there's a couple big storylines, especially this week. Like you mentioned, there's 5 or 6 spots open. One group and position group I think might be the biggest one with guys that is kind of the biggest question marks. Is this edge group and not even just the edge group, but the defensive line. Like like Levi stepped up big time, but then you look at the edge, you have Agude now who's playing on the edge in the Sam spot. Isaac Ukwu, who I've been very, very big on the last few weeks. He's fighting for a spot, and Dan keeps bringing him up. Matty Betts the last week has kind of stepped up a little bit. Where do you see this going? Like, what is your projection? Is Saturday going to be a big kind of resume builder for some of these guys? Like, is there actual a chance where Matty Betts goes out there and gets another sack and dominates that he makes the team? And same with Ukwu. Like, where do these guys stand, do you think, going into Saturday and then the cut day on Tuesday?
Yeah, no doubt. Great question. I know it's a very intriguing topic. We will release our final 53-man. It'll be my document on Sunday after the game. Look, you have to always be cautious not to overreact to one game, but it's a big deal. It's the final test. But the Lions have always done a good job, and I felt Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes really do a good job of meeting together and going over an entire camp. And it's an entire body of work from really, you look at, that's why we go out to practice, how consistent. And he keeps saying it. Dan Campbell now has said it. He's not looking for this. He's looking for just do your job, steady as it goes. And if he finds people that he can trust, they make the roster. And I do think Matthew Betts, the likes of Donovan Peoples-Jones, James Houston, they have to showcase a little bit more to make this roster. Isaiah Williams is going to be a factor that needs to step up. Caden Davis. You look at it and you say there's 4 or 5 guys that are going to need to really step it up to find opportunities for this football team. It's going to be a tough roster to crack, but that's what's always great about having an opportunity to see how someone performs. And for Dan Campbell, I think he's always been honest. He just wants someone steady that understands the responsibility, doesn't get out of order or out of pocket when the pressure rises. Just do your job, be fundamentally sound, and handle business. And I just think that Saturday will be another test, and there'll be great opportunities to see if Matthew Betts and Houston make plays, Isaiah Williams, Caden Davis. And most importantly, I think it's really important for the game is probably most important for 2 people. It's important for Nate Sudfeld and Donovan Peoples-Jones because they just haven't been that consistent throughout the board.
Hey, real quick, Klotz, real quick, I want to ask Doc this. James Houston, like that situation, I brought it up a couple of days ago and had a little pushback when it came to James Houston. Like, hey, I don't know if he's a lock to make this roster. Like he was injured last week. He moved. He was pretty bad week 1 of preseason. I felt like it's like he has to go out there and play this Saturday and show up for it to not be like an actual conversation. Is that actual like a thing around the building right now that, hey, like James Houston might be on the bubble?
Yeah, let's talk about James Houston. It's a little bit tough because he hasn't really shown that little bit of progression that you would like in his 3rd year. So first, let's drink because we got to be honest about what's going on with James Houston because he's got so much potential. My goodness. All right, let's be honest with James Houston. The guy's got potential. So I just would find it hard to let go of somebody that has the skill of being an elite pass rusher. And they've already tried to work him as an outside linebacker. It didn't work. So it makes it so that his playing time might not be as great. But if you have an elite talent like I do at chugging beer, I just don't think that you can just let that go because I think he'll pass through waivers instantly. I think that a skill like that is coveted. It's unfortunate because you always want the best for the football players that you inherit and draft. But I think that if he's given the opportunity to just focus on being the best defensive end that he can be with this unit, I mean, I just think that you give him time to work his way back and get comfortable and do his thing. And I just think that there are some guys, look, and I think I'm one of them. You see me around, you say, oh, that guy's kind of laid back. But when the lights are on, I just get excited and I go into a different mode. I think that's what James Houston is like. I think that when it's game time and he's out on the football field, the man can wreak havoc. And I think he can do it. I think that just for whatever reason, when it comes to practice and preseason games, it's just not all there. And plus, his head's been filled with so much stuff. that he just hasn't been playing free. Let the man free. The doc's advice to Aaron Glenn, set the man free. Let him drink with the doc. We'll get his head right, and then he'll deliver. I think he's going to have some impact. It's just not going to be – it might be the ceiling of 8 sacks a year, or he might get to play, 30 to 40%, whereas we would like to see him at 60% of playing time. But the talent's there. You can't – unfortunately, in football, you can't let somebody who can sack the quarterback and is prolific at it walk out the door. I just would be shocked. Unless he completely blows assignments and has a really bad game, James Houston is on this roster. But unfortunately, he's roster spot 52 or 53 as we talk right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, Doc. I don't think you can just let James Houston walk without at least letting him see what he can do again at the defensive end spot. And shout out to you when the Wild Goose signing happened. I was like, I know that name from somewhere. Went on old Safari, clicked on the SI article, and one of your infantrymen, I think his name was Christian, wrote a very fine article about Wild Goose. But you kind of mentioned Isaiah Williams a second ago. I think after his performance, I would be shocked if he didn't at least make the practice squad, let alone the 53-man roster. Kind of a two-parter here. One, do you think Isaiah Williams makes the roster? If so, what does that look like in the regular season? And two, how many wide receivers do you think Dan Campbell and this Detroit Lions offense keeps on this team?
Yeah. Isaiah Williams really done a good job. This is a guy that has kind of been steady. It's unfortunate because, Dan Campbell's honest and he says, look, he kind of does have the role that Amon-Ra has in terms of the spot, and they need a true X receiver. So it's just really tough to see, okay, what kind of impact can he have? Where do you put him in? You put him in certain packages, maybe out of the backfield, certain sets that you can put him in. Clearly on special teams, he has a role. I think he makes the roster with a good performance. Look, it goes to show you that if you follow at Detroit Podcast, I was staying really after practice much more longer than I'm used to. And there were a couple guys that were just grinding after practice. One of them was Khalif Raymond, which you expect from the veteran. The other is Isaiah Williams. The man is grinding. He's showing that he's a hard worker, that he's taking in all the information. So you look at it and you say the special teams value, the grit that he's got, the work ethic, he's going to be part of the Detroit Lions. It's going to be a toss-up, and I think that this game will also be key. So you look at how many receivers should they keep? Well, clearly it's going to be St. Brown. It's going to be Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond. I think you look at potentially maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones. You just keep him around because he's been in the system. He's the X receiver. Maybe the fifth is Isaiah Williams or Caden Davis. So I think right now, as we're just talking, spitballing it, I think 5 is a spot. But with the same token, you could look at it if Caden Davis balls out again. I mean, he had a 60-yard touchdown last week. He's another guy that I like. I like the fact that he's kind of been that steady force and been consistent at practice, but I just don't know because he's an undrafted free agent. He just feels like it kind of feels right now. Gut feeling is that he's a perfect example. He's a perfect fit for the practice squad. Develop a little bit more until he can get a potential opportunity with the 53-man roster. So right now, I just think 5 is the early starting point, and this game Saturday is going to be key. But it's just unfortunate because when you got Nate Sudfeld throwing you, I mean, right. Christian and I talked about it. There was a throw he made to Donovan Peoples-Jones that DPJ had no chance to get, and some of it's not his fault. But at the same token, he's got to be more of a commanding presence with his size. And there are certain situations in which he drops the ball. It's just one of those things where you just want to just see DPJ electrify a little bit and not slide under the radar. You want to see him kind of enforce his will, but I don't know if he's got that personality to go do it. It seems like he's a pro. He goes out there, he runs routes, does things, but I don't know if he's got that little bit extra intangible, a little bit of that grit that you need to say, hey, your job's on the line, man. Come on. Like play like maybe you don't have it, but play like you got a $1 million bonus waiting in the wings for you. Be a little bit more impactful with what you're doing. So I hope that DPJ takes advantage because people say he's on the roster, but if it were up to me right now, I wouldn't put him on the roster.
And just real quick, Doc, to kind of tail end off that, between Caden Davis and Isaiah Williams, who do you think as of right now is leading that race between those two?
Yeah, it's different because Caden Davis has made the splash plays, the big impactful plays, whereas Isaiah Williams is slow and steady and just that guy that Dan Campbell talks about. So to me, it's Isaiah Williams. I think he's doing the extra work. I think he's got that undrafted free agent contract that's a little bit more lucrative than you're used to. So to me, right now, Isaiah Williams has the lead because of his opportunities that he can do on special teams. And I think Caden Davis is the spot for the practice squad. I think that he's just a perfect fit for somebody that can run the scout team, do things, and then develop a little bit more.
Well, Doc, you know what I'm going to ask. My weekly Hendon Hooker update. All right, and I'm going to ask you because we talked about it last week. He had the concussion, which kind of held him back from practicing too much. I mean, we were there. He was throwing the football, but he wasn't really participating in like live. You know, Nate Sudfeld was out there really working with the twos. What'd you make of his game on Saturday? And Dan Campbell said he'll start this week. They wanted to start him last week. They weren't able to. What do you make of him right now, his development and the way he played? I think, Doc, without practicing really, I think was even more impressive. But what do you make of him right now? Because I think with time, you want to add a quarterback or at least maybe keep Nate Sudfeld. I would recommend they don't. But if they want to keep a quarterback in there with experience, like I understand that. But I think with time, with development, and you should not need him this season. But if there's a game down the line, I think with 8 weeks of practice and developing, I think he'll be ready. What say you on just this week's game and where he's at right now as a backup?
Yeah, Hendon Hooker, it's a very intriguing topic because there's talk about merit, what he deserves versus the competition. But first and foremost, whoever's in charge over there, you guys, of flashing the comments into the screen, definitely flash Tom Izzo, those that say Johnny Mac is a warrior, those that say I love Johnny Wild Goose Macaroon. Flash them, keep them coming, because the more, yes, it's kind of like one of those things where the more you compliment, the higher energy I get. I love it. Your group is awesome. I love
it's like those games you submit a token and it just keeps.
Your comment section is among the best. And yes, I am the John Daly of the media. I'll drink it down and I'll spit the truth. Hopefully now, the more I drink, the less I'll start talking about myself. But I'm gonna be focused. That's what I said. I said these boys kept me on, even though I said some dumbass shit on this show a couple months back. But let me say this about Hendon Hooker, because it's going to be something I got to think clearly on and say it concisely, because I have a lot of thoughts about number 2.
So we love you, John. Deal.
There we go.
Hold on. Whoa.
The dog from East Lansing.
Yeah, 2 down, baby. I should have brought more, but that's pretty good. That'll get me fired up. 2 down. Listen, I just put in a month of grinding, baby. I deserve it. Maybe 2 more after I get off this interview. Let me talk about Hendon Hooker. Look, the man is significantly better than Nate Sudfeld right now, just in terms of talent. He's just better in terms of, look, you see more upside. You see the mobility. You see the raw talent that he's got. The situation in which when he gets put into the game, the offense just looks a little bit better. So in terms of the competition with Nate Sudfeld, clearly my question, I think I did a podcast or I've done videos where I just said directly, any reps that Nate Sudfeld takes is a waste of time for the development of Hendon Hooker. So that's why I asked Dan Campbell this week. I said, okay, how many reps is Hendon basically going to take with the twos? Because I think you need to just give him exactly when the exact amount of time with the two so he can get better, because he's been repping with, unfortunately, threes at time. And that's really tough with offensive linemen sometimes that aren't exactly knowing exactly where to be at the right time and the right protection and the plays and getting the calls in. So clearly, I think it's pretty much safe to say that even though Dan Campbell told me that Sudfeld is the 2 by a small margin, I think he was maybe saying that to kind of rile up Hendon Hooker to play better and to do more. I get the experience factor, but Nate Sudfeld doesn't have that much experience in the regular season either. So what I think of his game, I thought that he slid. He did what he was told. I thought that he showcased grit. And that's what I love about talking to Dan Campbell and asking him direct questions, because he gives me direct answers. And he said, look, he did some things great in terms of moving the football, rebounding from mistakes, but he did some bad things in terms of not getting into the right checks and holding the football too long. And obviously the exchange that went astray that forced a turnover, that's a mistake. So you got a rookie quarterback. That's what you got. So in terms of his competition with Nate Sudfeld, clearly I think when the depth chart comes out, Hendon Hooker's number 2. Now you open up another conversation, which is, all right, something happened to Jared Goff. You throw Hendon Hooker out there. you need to piss your pants because it's not going to be super special. It's going to be up and down. It's going to be a couple drives where you're like, whoa, this guy looks like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then he's going to throw the football to a linebacker in a set where you go, you should never throw that football. That's just how it is. Look, Wednesday's practice, you're going to read from me and everybody. He just had problems with the exchange. It's sloppy. It's not consistent. So he's the number 2. But at the backup spot, you all should panic that if something happens to Jared Goff, Hendon Hooker's not going to save your season. It's just not going to happen. He may get you a win. He may do what he needs to do for a time period, but defenses are going to showcase a lot more than they are now. So, Booner, listen, I got a lot of respect for you and things like that. But when I see your takeaways, I love it. And you're like, Hendon's the man. And I'm like, Booner
looks good.
When you put that takeaway out there, he's going against guys that are going to be doing what we're doing in 2 weeks. You can't extrapolate that way when you do a takeaway after a preseason game. What you say is, okay, he's trending in a better direction. He's making better plays. But that's why my question was so pointed, because he played in the second half. He needed to play in the first half. But Dan said that it wasn't going to happen because he missed practice time. So Hendon's the number 2, but he is not the guy right now where you say if Goff goes down that you're going to be comfortable. No, you should shit your pants. If Goff goes down, you should be very nervous that the season's going to fall completely off the rails. And that's just the way it is. He's a rookie quarterback that has the world thrown at him. If you told me 10 years ago, hey, do all these interviews and write all these stories and cover the team and do what I'm doing now 10 years ago off rip, then it's going to be a situation in which I would have collapsed. But now with the scenario in which I have so much more experience, I've seen things, I can handle the turbulence, I can handle drinking beers and talking at the same time and keeping my words straight and avoiding all the pitfalls. Look, it's just the way it is. He's inexperienced. So you just need continued development. And you just have to hope that Jared Goff continues to stay healthy. But to me, I would go out and get a veteran. I'd just go out and get somebody better than Nate Sudfeld because I think it's out there. And that also helps the room. It helps Jared Goff. It helps Hendon Hooker to develop. But Hendon Hooker's a rookie, and that's the way it is. But he's got a lot of nice talent that can be enhanced down the road. But it's just year one, guys. And I'm sorry. If you think right now that Hendon can go in there and win some games, sorry, guys. I think NFL defense will be ahead of him. Right now, we're still talking about formations and snaps. I'm out there every day. I can tell you that it is up and down. And Dan Campbell said it directly. Some real good things and some real bad things. And those bad things aren't like little things. I'm talking about procedural, reading where the defense is, the checks, the protections. Listen, guys, Ben Johnson's offense is PhD level. And he's going to get there. He will get there, but it's not 2024. It's a situation in which you just need, every experience is a good experience, but that's why he needs to be the number 2 to get those experiences.
Hey, Doc, I just want to say this, and you know what? You're going to like this. You're going to like this. I'm happy that you called me out for that because the people and our listeners, I've came on this show for the last week, and I know I tweeted that out, Doc, and it was when I put that out there that Hendon Hooker is QB2, it's because he's better. He's clearly better right now over Sudfeld. It's just that's your default QB2. And that was like when I put that out there is, hey, he looks good and he's your QB2. But to be fair, Doc, when I come on this show, out of our whole panel here of 4 guys that we have, I am the one that gets called an Hendon Hooker hater. I'm the one that gets all. If you go look at our comment section in our last 8 YouTubes, it's why does Booner hate on Hendon Hooker? And it's because, Doc, I say what you said. It's if Jared Goff goes down for 2 or 3 weeks, is Hendon Hooker ready to do it? No, he looked good in the preseason. He played good, but Jeff's laughing over there. But Jeff could probably say it. I have been saying they need to go out and get a QB2 that's going to be able to, like, if Jared Goff goes down for 2 games, you're probably going 0-2 with Hendon Hooker, and that's not good. And if you're fighting for a 1 seed, that's been my stance on it. Is if you're fighting for a 1 seed, you need every game matters. And if Hendon Hooker's not ready, he's just not ready, even if he's good or not. So I've had that stance, and I've gotten absolutely torched for it, which is fine. But I want to ask you this, Doc. I don't want to get off topic here. I apologize. Me and you were lockstep. This is why me and you, Doc, 2 peas in a pod. I want to ask you about defense, though. Other side of the ball here defensively. You saw all of camp. And obviously last year, the pass defense was like 27th in the NFL, run defense second. Do you think that they're going to, like, from what you've seen so far out of the secondary, and I know there's been injuries, I know things have happened, but do you feel like this is now that towards the end of camp, hey, this defense can take a step and end up actually being a Super Bowl winning defense? Because I've said a lot that I think the Super Bowl runs through this defense. If they can get stops and they become a top 10 defense, you're going to go win a Super Bowl. That's just how it works, especially if you have a number 2 or number 3 offense in the NFL. Do you think they're capable of doing that from what you've seen during training camp?
Yeah, no doubt. But first and foremost, full disclosure, I haven't slammed 2 beers like that in a minute, so it's starting to hit me a little bit.
Here we go,
yeah, here we go. It's starting to feel good up in here. But I just want to address the comments real fast. I love your guys' comments because there is pushback. Those that say, well, Hendon with the ones would be great. Of course, he would lead touchdown drives. But guys, I do like for starters, the preseason is vanilla. It's not exotic blitzes. And for me, I've studied defenses for a decade, and they're not running, the packages that are disguised. They're not doing, it's vanilla defense. So when you start getting into the intricacies of pro NFL defense, Hendon Hooker would be throwing the ball to the Bears quite a bit. He'd be throwing the ball to the Packers quite a bit. And you would have those things that would piss off a coach. Dan Campbell's blood pressure would rise, and it would force a little bit more pressure. While, yes, there would be good plays, but don't erase the stuff that Dan said. He didn't say, well, he said bad things, and he didn't elaborate on those bad things. But when you watch the film and you're at practice, you can see those bad things that'll get you to be very upset with your backup. So look, I just think he needs to develop, and I love the talent. I think he's the perfect fit for what a backup needs to be. But in terms of what you need him to do, in terms of the Super Bowl contending and getting you into a playoff scenario, it wouldn't happen. Clearly, it wouldn't happen. If Goff goes down, just like any other team, it would not go down. Now, this defense, man, they're angry. They're pissed. They ain't happy. And I think they are looking around and they're like, God, the doc every day writes about Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff and J-Mo and the offensive line. What about the shine for the defense? And it just was highlighted by I don't know if we talked about it last week, but it was eerie, in which there was a practice in which the defense is making plays and it's crickets. And Alex is like, what the hell? You can cheer for the defense. And bro, they are nasty. They are not messing around. And it was great today. Like for me, I am professional when I'm out there. Like you see me, I'm quiet. I lay back, I write down the notes and I just write down the play. But part of me, I almost came out of my seat today. We were sitting down, and I can't wait till you guys see this headline tomorrow morning at 7. But Branch said it. You can go find it. Jared Goff makes a bad read and throws it in the direction of Brock Wright. And Brian Branch is there. And if this was legitimate NFL football where you can take people's head off, Brock Wright would be done. Brian Branch would have ended Brock Wright. That's how much, and he just gave him a little nudge, but the force that would have happened, it would have been like Mortal Kombat. Finish him. It was amazing. I almost was going to come out of my chair and be like, fuck yeah, Brian Branch, fuck him up. That's what I want to see every single time from the defense, is like, go out there and launch yourself, make yourself known. That's what Derek Barnes is doing. That's what Ancelotti's doing. That's what the secondary is doing. They're coming. Listen, their motto really is going to be probably, we're coming here to fuck you up. That's the motto, and that's the attitude that this group is coming to the table with. And now they got the dogs to do it. So finally, they'll make me happy, because that's the side of the ball that I love to follow, that I kind of know a lot more than, explaining XYZ receivers and things like that. No, I can explain single high safeties and zone blitzes and exotic defensive things a little bit better. I'm getting better with the offense, but this defense, if they stay healthy, they're going to get after it. The pieces are there. The puzzle looks lovely. Guys, Aiden Hutchinson dominated again. I think he made my list 4 or 5 days in a row. And I'm so grateful you guys actually liked that list. I think I started it this year where I said, fuck it, I'm just going to share what I like and just ignore what I don't. Today, I kind of threw a little spice in there because I just got to be me. but I just felt like, damn, Aiden Hutchinson dominated the entire practice, and he was in Jared Goff's face. He would have had 3-4 sacks today. He was just all over the place. And Ali McNeil, look, the man's hungry and he wants to get paid. And hungry, energetic guys that want to get paid are going to bust their ass. And we haven't even talked about the additions of DJ Reader and Marcus Davenport when they finally get into the mix, probably later on in the year with DJ Reader. I just think that if they're healthy, this defense is going to be something special. And I think that, look, all you need is, I don't think you need them to be top 10 for success because the offense is so good. But imagine what you can do with Iffy blitzing, or Brian Branch is ready to blitz more. He's like, I love it. I want to do the job. Amik Robertson, the safeties are great. The linebackers are pissed off and hungry. And I think they are in a situation in which this defense is feeling disrespected, and they feel like they're underappreciated, and they're feeling like, man, all these guys talk about is, can the defense step up? Can the defense step up? And I think their attitude is, watch us step up, because they won the scrimmage today. They won the scrimmage clearly with elite defensive line play. And would I say this is a Super Bowl caliber defense? Probably not, but I think it's going to be good enough to be able to complement what this offense can do. So I'm excited. And when Terrion and Ennis and the full arsenal gets here, I can't wait. Let's fast forward to October when we get to talk about the full arsenal. You'll see me here with 4 beers being super excited. And I will let you know that I was very fond of the comments that were made directed at me when I took look, you guys know I don't like taking photos of myself, but I said, you know what? I landed an interview with DJ Reader. It's in a Detroit public school. I did not set up the chairs. I just showed up, thankfully, on time. I didn't get lost. I got there and they set up everything for me. And the first thing was not, oh, good job, Doc. You landed a big interview. Great. The first comments were, God damn, motherfucker, you are short compared to DJ Reader. Well, yes, I'm short. I am 5'3" and 194 pounds. And he is 6'4" and 350. Why would I compare to him? If I compared to him, something is wrong. He is a massive defensive lineman. So I thank you for the comments. It almost hurt my feelings, but the interview was great. Played on the radio, played all over the place. And I just can't wait for DJ Reader because first and foremost, he's a nice guy. And when he comes to wreck the defense, I think that he's coming for damage. And I think that he's going to unlock Ali McNeil to make this defensive line even more special. Just imagine this. Imagine a defensive line, a front 4 of Aiden Hutchinson, Levi Onwuzurike, DJ Reader, and Ali McNeil with James Houston coming on the edge. Get the fuck out of here. It's going to be disaster for the Bears and the Vikings. It's going to be great. I can't wait to see it. I am excited to see it. I can't wait.
Doc, it sounds like you're high on this defense, and I'm excited here because, like you said, you're down there in Allen Park, but a guy that I've been high on, and you know it since we drafted him, Sewell Vaki. And I think a lot of Lions fans are excited. You could see the hype and why there's hype around him both in camp and the preseason game. But my question to you is, he's obviously going to make the team. What do you think his workload is going to look like? Could it possibly be more or less than some Lions fans think? And how do you think that falls into place with Craig Reynolds also being on the team? And it looks like he could make the roster too as well if they're going to keep a lesser amount of receivers.
Yeah, no doubt. Unless you hear bad news about Craig Reynolds, 4 running backs make this roster, and Sione Vaki's clearly going to make the roster. And it was great this week, man. I feel bad. I don't know if I, put him on blast for being able to sing. I know that he wasn't exactly comfortable putting that out there publicly, but he did it. I told him, man, good sport. Thank you. But, to give you a little insight, he gets told beforehand by somebody, hey, somebody's been asking about your singing and they might ask you to sing. And he looked like, a deer in the headlight. I felt so bad. I'm like, shit. You know what I mean? And of course, I just asked the question, like, what did you do? And of course, the television people were going to ask him, hey, sing for us. But at the same token, I love what he brings to the table. Another weapon, another guy that can clearly out of the backfield do some things, but he just got to work on making the right cuts, not being, and it's interesting because you clearly see running backs when they first get to the league, they get happy feet and they start, tapping their feet a little bit. And the running backs coach is, God damn it, I don't think Scotty Montgomery, I don't think I've heard him openly cuss, but the best way to do it, if I would do it, would be like, God damn it, motherfucker, stop pedaling your feet, moving forward and keep it going, which is hit the damn hole, recognize it and go forward. Stop pitter-pattering and waffling, get after it. And that's what he's got to recognize, which is, hey, hit the hole, make a clear, concise cut and go. Stop fucking around with all those extra dance steps.
DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, but it's he's inexperienced, so he needs to hear it, and he'll get better at it. But boy, out of the backfield, I think that clearly, I would even say a question that I would ask next week would be, what kind of role do you see him having? I'd say you play him 25%, good third down opportunities, first down when you want to make a nice screen pass or have an opportunity where it's like 2nd and 1 and you want to take a stab, you throw him out there. But yeah, I play him 25% of offensive snaps. You get him out there as much as possible. And I think that he's going to be special. He's got the right mindset. He's uber talented. He won the rookie talent show from what everybody told me in my research. And he's got a good voice. He's multi-talented. And I think he's a pro. But yeah, I think he's still RB4. Craig Reynolds is great in blocking. He's great. He's all around, and he lit it up this week. Like, he played like his job was on the line, and he had a big touchdown. And I just think that he's the total package as a back. So while Vaki has the flash and the potential, he ain't the total running back package that even Craig Reynolds is. But man, if you're starting right now where we say you're just scratching the surface of the talent that Vaki has, you got 4 running backs that either or in any spot could dominate with this offensive line. So I'm excited. I like seeing him out there. I'm writing 33 all over the place, and he's getting targets. And I think that once he keeps learning and getting, remember too, he's a converted safety. So once he develops the skills that he needs to get out there and handle business, you got a dog out there. You got a good one.
Doc, this guy's, you said he's playing for his job. The guy's singing for his job. Look at this.
This was on NFL's Instagram too.
Yeah. And look, I can give you guys insight because listen, when you're an NFL reporter and you're in the trenches doing it, it's hardcore football. It's almost 24/7. Like, you just sometimes feel like you can't sleep because something's going to break, or you're going to hear something from someone, or someone's going to message you. But at some token, I feel like the interviews with Dan Campbell got real football heavy. It was like, tell me about this player and this depth. It was like ultra, super, uber football. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, I love it, but there's only a certain amount of that I can take. I need a little bit of entertainment in my life. So I said, I'm going to research what the hell happened at the rookie show. That was my thesis for the week. I clearly was going to understand the roster and all that. But I said, I want to know what the hell happened. Who shined? Did someone bomb? So luckily the players were gracious enough. And the first guy that talked to me was Craig Reynolds. And he was so excited. And he was like, Vaki time. He was like, Vaki tore it down. And I got the scoops. And I was like, all right, Vaki tore it down. And then again today, I was like, please let me get a chance to ask Dan Campbell, because it was all football heavy questions from the media. And I almost fell asleep. It was like, oh my God, we're going to know about, tell me about your perception of this. Tell me about, I was like this in the media room, like, all right, let's talk a little bit about something spicy. So I said, all right, let me ask Dan Campbell about Vaki. And so the origins of Vaki singing come from the DOC. And I hope that a little bit of entertainment came your way, and you learned something a little bit. But they tore it down. A lot of singers up in the rookie room in Allen Park. And I look at it and I say, hey, if you're gonna sing in front of the guys, you better have a good voice. And he does. And it was very cool to hear him do his thing. And he was willing to do it in front of the media. So he's multi-talented. But the question is, if you're Isaiah Williams, how are you going to try to tell a joke in front of a group of guys and not know that it's kind of a popular joke? Isaiah Williams got booed off the stage within like 5 seconds. Could you imagine? You're just getting into the talk about the joke and the Lions are booing your ass. So I hope when I check in next week, I hope that he does better, because he's going to get a second chance. Isaiah Williams was open because all the players were so nice. They're like, Doc, I'm not, they say, John, I'm not going to really tell you who got booed off the stage. Isaiah walks right up to me. Yeah, man, it was great. Vaki was great, man. Yeah, I got booed off the stage. And I was like, yeah, some information. The story came together great. Check it out. Tyrion crushed it. Ennis crushed it. And I'm going to leave you guys with this image. All right. Imagine a 6'7", 300-pound offensive lineman with his shirt off in front of a football team singing Backstreet Boys. That's what Manu did. I want it that way. Manu got up there and did tell me why.
Sounds like
Here we go, Doc.
Now, of course, the internet's like, Doc, go get the video. Please, guys, listen, Lions, if you ever hear this, put out the video. We want to see this show because it was awesome. Tyrion sang, Ennis sang. Wingo, I think, did a cultural thing that really took off. But Vaki was I want to see Vaki and Manus, and I want to see the Lions boo the shit out of Isaiah Williams.
Yeah, that stuff was gold on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I'd be scared to boo Giovanni Manu. I don't know what else. Yeah. He's just so big. Good job. Isaiah Williams, he said he did like jokes. Is that what he was doing? Comedy?
Well, Isaiah Williams tried to tell a joke that I think that's been popular. So it was instantly recognized as something that's been done before or not that great. Okay. And Taylor Decker was just right away like, oh, no, this ain't going to fly. And the crowd turned quick. Like he got booed literally like stop the joke and get off. So they were ruthless. And look at even Dan Campbell was like, yeah, Vaki was good, but the performance was meh. So I love it. That's what I was uniquely intrigued by. Of course, I'm going to get intrigued by nonsense. So hey, check it out. People like the story. It's just a little bit different than the heavy football because the other 8 stories were football heavy. I needed a little bit of entertainment in my life, and I thought that story just was the right time. And the media room liked it too because they were just like, oh my God, hearing what the hell I was telling them about who was singing, who was bombing, it was intriguing. And I think it did, change up the mix because Dan Campbell was just hardcore football for 10 minutes. And I'm like, I definitely have to get out there and mix it up a little bit, say something a little bit more spicy. And then a little bit of pepper in the soup there.
I want to.
Oh, go ahead. My bad, Jeff. Go.
Yeah,
Go crazy.
We talked about it earlier. Biggest steal of the offseason, John, and a player that I've been following, Amik Robertson. It's been interesting because I said it about a month ago. He would be my pick to be in the slot to play nickel. How's he been trending? I know he's looked pretty good this preseason. Could you certainly at this point pretty much say that guy he's going to be in the nickel come week 1?
No doubt. Yeah, week 1 starter, veteran, you go with it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Rakestraw by week 3, 4, he's the man. Rakestraw is a gamer. I think that he can quickly move up the depth chart and make plays. I think that he's got the right makeup, the right physical tools, just got to learn the game. And I think he'll be in the mix too for a lot of playing times, maybe in the second quarter of the season. But right now, Amik Robertson's a dog. And I think that, the one thing with his position is he's prone to gamble. And when he gambled, you saw what happened against the Chiefs. He got burned. Yeah. And there's some things that's going to happen. And I think that might not be the first and only time you see that happen, but he'll always rebound. He'll always be a gamer. And look, he still made plays against the Chiefs. So I think the right mix will be Rakestraw, Branch, and Amik Robertson at that spot with Robertson starting. And I think that you're going to be satisfied with what happens. And I just think that spot needs to have someone that's a dog that wants to tackle, wants to prove things. And there's opportunities that you can use them. I just think that, his size is going to be a detriment. I think quarterbacks are going to pick on him a little bit, especially against a big-bodied slot receiver or, moving guys around on offense will put some mismatches out there for the Lions defense. But at the same token, if you can pressure the quarterback, it won't make a difference. And if Carlton Davis, who did pick off Jared Goff today for a pick 6, if he steps up with Tyrion Arnold, that just makes the play of Amik Robertson that much better.
Doc, one last football question from me, at least here. It's kind of a weird question, but I feel like obviously we know what Jared Goff is, the leader of this team, QB1, just got paid. Through camp, though, it feels like we have seen some days, we were there last Wednesday, and I'm sure you can attest to this. He was just making some incredible throws. It was like, hey, we don't see Jared Goff make that many consistent, just insane throws. And then there's a day like today where he's throwing multiple picks. And obviously, I'm sure he still had some touchdowns today. What is your kind of outlook and I would say expectation for Jared going into this year? Is it just the same as last year, what he did? Or is there maybe we're going to see a new, not a new Jared Goff, but hey, like a more an improved one? Because I did bring the take up that I do think if the Lions are, win 13 games and they go into San Francisco week 17, they win, and Jared has, 4,700 yards with 30-something touchdowns, 7 interceptions, he may be considered an MVP just based off like how Brock Purdy was last year. Do you see him just being like last year, or do you think there's another step for him to take in his career this season?
Yeah, Jared Goff talk, man. I love it. I think that, clearly what we saw in a practice there was unbelievable. He was zipping it all over the place, crisp. That's how it is, up and down, and the defense has brought it. They brought the pressure, and this is good because I think iron sharpens iron, and it'll be good for Jared Goff. And Dan Campbell said beforehand, they were trying different things that maybe Jared hadn't seen before, different looks, different ways in which they were attacking him. And of course, that was going to be disruptive. So that's just all good. Look, 2 picks in practice. Look, and I know people will say, when you write that, you'll say, oh my God, they'll extrapolate it out a little bit too far in terms of their assessment. But the defense was really part of the story today. And they forced Jared Goff to be uncomfortable, but he's going to learn from it. He'll learn definitely to adapt. And he's one of the smartest quarterbacks out there. You got to give him his due for being a prototypical pocket passer that can do some things. And I think that when he's on with this group and the emergence of JMO and listen, man, the connection that I just wish everybody could be blessed to see the connection that he has with Amon-Ra. Today, it was just literally when you needed to play, Amon-Ra over the middle, Amon-Ra to the right, Amon-Ra to the left, 10 catches for, I think, over 100 yards. And he was just all over the place in a game, in a scrimmage in which the practice was dominated by the defense. So, look, I think the least of your concerns is Jared Goff. I think that one thing you'd hope he gets better at is the connection deep with JMO. It's up and down, but that's kind of how it is because I think that, cornerbacks are going to press JMO. They're going to work him to a spot and, the coverages are going to blend and work in a great way to, have, coverage and bracket it in a way that will sometimes limit JMO. So that's why it's great to have the great running backs and the tight ends for underneath type stuff. So to me, I'm not worried about Jared Goff. I think that he should be celebrated. I think that getting this football team to the NFC Championship game was no small task. The other guy couldn't do it. Mr. Sleep Mattress couldn't do it. I'm happy with Jared Goff. Now, it's a different conversation in which do I think he can lead this team to the Super Bowl and win it? That's a different conversation, but we don't need to have that right now. But we can say he's the man for the job right now to get a bunch of wins, to handle business, to be able to do what you got to do. But remember, I'm the defensive coordinator, so I would have my way of attacking Jared Goff. I mean, I've talked to former college coaches and NFL coaches and guys and be like, okay, I don't like sit there and have beers with them. I say, hey, if you're going up against Jared Goff, what would you do? And they tell me, and it makes sense. So it's fun to see if Jared Goff will rise to the occasion, knowing what opponents are going to do to him. And I think he can. I think that he's got the right mindset. He's got everything you need to do it. It's just going to be, does the formula fit when it's crunch time? And he also needs his defense to step up at a high level. But I'm excited to watch Jared Goff. And I'm also excited to see what this defense can do too, because they put him through it today and they went after him. And man, I just wish, for me, I'm 45, but I'm not that old. But I just wish in practice, you could lay out the quarterback. I know it sucks because they get hurt and they make so much money, but Aiden Hutchinson would have made Jared Goff his roommate because he would have been like laying up next to him for at least half of the plays this training camp. And it was a great sight to see. But Jared Goff has handled it, and he's had some good plays as well. But man, that defense did something today at least.
Love it. Great stuff, Doc. We appreciate you as always.
Never disappoint, Doc.
Yeah,
Never
he
won.
doesn't. Gets the Modelo's flowing, and Doc just gets absolutely locked in. Doc, we'll talk to you next week. You have a great weekend. Please, guys, go check out. Link will be in the description. Go read Doc's stuff. The dude is active. So is Christian and Vito, and those guys do a great job. So we'll catch you next week.
Man.
We'll catch you next week, John. We appreciate it.
No doubt. Just give me 60 seconds here. Look, check out the landing page. I really did come into training camp with the goal of just being better than last year, and I think we did that. If you come to Lions on SI for free, you will get Detroit Lions insider coverage, energetic, passionate videos, highlights, entertainment, and fun stuff. And I do think that we're in the mix. I think people react to the stuff we're doing. Things are trending upward. I owe a lot to what you guys did as well to highlight an ass like myself every single week throughout the training camp. I owe a lot to what you guys did for me. And like I said, I always will give credit to what you guys did. You and guys like Adam challenged me to be different than what I was. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have the success. So I always want to say, first and foremost, if you can get Adam to wear a mask or talk in a different name, just get the guy that kind of sounds like Adam and get him on here. It'll be good because that guy has a lot to say, and he's a wise guy beyond his years. And I wish that he could speak in a free manner, but maybe have him dress up differently or just have a black box and a voice. Maybe they can't legally prove that that's him, and you just call him Sam or Sammy or Mohammed or something different. Just do
Bro said Mohammed.
Yeah,
like we're interviewing like a cartel member or something. How they just have to
it's like a voice changer, and it's like they're dark and voice changer can't see them. Yeah,
the deep voice.
Listen, Adam Smith is a great guy, and I think he does a good job. The Arab guy, no, you keep him off the air, dude. That guy's an ass.
Yeah.
Adam Smith is the guy you need to bring up here because the other guy, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
ADAM.
Yeah,
ADAM. Yeah.
ADAM,
Listen, we keep all the other troublemakers off the air. That's the number one thing we do. Adam Smith is the guy.
There you go. You know what, Doc? We appreciate
legend,
you. I'm
Doc.
not letting you get away without us saying that. You are the man. Our favorite segment every single week. Guys, go check out Doc. Support the man. We'll catch you.
The next time, Doc, we talk to you, their 53-man roster will be out. So can't wait.
No doubt.
Let's go.
Thank you, guys. Peace.
DOT. John
Maakaron. He's
out. Absolute dog. I mean, this guy is he's
what a legend.
He gets some Modelo's in him. He's getting loose. He's having a good time. And you never know. That's why I love the Doc. I do want to finish kind of what we were talking about because we were getting into the, this or that. What scenario is more likely? We actually have one more before we move on because we're going to get to college football winners. Of their conference
Power
winner.
4.
Yep, the Power 4. So before we do that, let's answer this question. Okay, I'm going to bring you
this or that, right? This or that.
Yep. Yep. What's more likely? Okay,
Jahmyr I don't know what that look was. That was a wild look.
Jahmyr Gibbs, All Pro, or Brian Branch.
I knew it was going to be this
All Pro. Jahmyr Gibbs All Pro, Brian Branch All Pro.
I have my answer easily.
What is more likely? Chat. Now I'll get a poll going. You can take it away, Klotzy.
It's gonna. Hey, you guys know I love Jahmyr Gibbs, but I think there's still like a lot of things that have to align outside, like just with the narratives around the other running backs. I think Breece Hall, the upgrade that the Jets did at their offensive line. I mean, their first round pick is their rotational guy in their offensive line right now. So I think Breece Hall is bound for success. Christian McCaffrey is. Derrick Henry is going to have probably close to some of his best, one of his best years production wise with the Ravens. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to be a top 5 back in the NFL, but I don't think his production will naturally show it. It could, but I think when you talk about more likely like Brian Branch, who I think is just going to be able to play freely this year. You look at the upgrades they did at the defensive line on the outside with the corners. Brian Branch, in my opinion, is going to be right where Kyle Hamilton was in year 2. And I think year 2 of Kyle Hamilton, you could have called him an all-pro. I think the one thing that's going to be fighting Brian Branch is that boy over in San Francisco and Hufanga because he's returning off injury and he's a dog. I think when you look at him, you look at Javon Holland and Kyle Hamilton, I think Brian Branch, if you want to say Minkah Fitzpatrick, you can put him in there too, but I think he's going to start kind of declining. Just he's hurt all the time, it seems like now. Brian Branch is going to be the next best safety in the NFL, and I think there is an absolute real shot, especially if Hutchinson producing like we all think he can, that Brian Branch finishes the year at least with second-team All-Pro. I would not be shocked whatsoever.
Ooh. I think I know the answer to this, and it's probably not going to hurt the narrative of me hating running backs because I don't. But it's going to go Brian. I'm going to go Brian Branch. I think he's the more likely All-Pro, and I'll tell you why. Number one, he's going to be on the field a lot more. It's the reason why they're moving him to safety, so he can be out there a lot more. And he's a guy that can get you, 2 to 3 interceptions a year. He can get you 2 sacks. He can get you tackle for losses, pass deflections, forced fumbles, a bunch of tackles. He can absolutely, and I love using this phrase, I use it a lot, dial a phone number in the stat sheet. The guy can just do a lot. So I think Brian Branch, even though there'll be competition, he is a guy that I would nominate more likely to get All-Pro. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, very talented, very talented. I don't know with him splitting carries how that's going to work. And there's a lot of good running backs that are expected to have really big years this year. So I would lean Brian Branch for that reason.
I mean, I don't want to be the guy to go chalk here. Like, this is unbelievable.
It's fine, Boone. It's one of those things where it's like Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, will have his time. But as of right now, David Montgomery's there, and I just think Jahmyr Gibbs will be the focal part. Oh, see, this is what drives me nuts here. This is what drives me nuts. You guys act like I think David Montgomery falls off a cliff. No. David Montgomery is still going to be a feature part of this offense. He's going to get close to I could be wrong and he gets 1,000 yards. I think he gets right under 1,000 yards. But when you look at, for example, like Bijan Robinson too. Bijan Robinson is an all-pro caliber running back, but Tyler Algier is still going to get fed, and that's going to limit him. I think Breece Hall, Braylon Allen is there. But Breece Hall, they drafted, I want to say 3 seasons ago. He's on his rookie contract, and he's dealt with injuries. This is probably going to be the best team they have because I don't think Aaron Rodgers stays there that much longer. He's just going to get fed out of the running back position, even in the backfield or out of the backfield as the pass catcher. So I think with Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, they're going to be the next up. It's just probably a season away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I had here. And honestly, I'll just do the same thing. And I hate it when we're all on the same page because I feel like it's just like, all right, what are we doing here, boys? But I think that's the obvious answer is Brian Branch. Like I brought it up before. We did the show when we talked about Brian Branch before in All Pro. And like I'm just looking at some of his stats right now. He played in 15 games and Justin Simmons played in 15 games last year. Brian Branch had 74 total tackles. Justin Simmons had 70. Brian Branch had a sack. Justin Simmons a sack. Interceptions, 3 and 3. Like you can go down the line here and just every single category. Pass deflections. Justin Simmons 8. Brian Branch 13. Tackles for a loss. Brian Branch 8. Justin Simmons 2.5. So almost every single category here when you're looking at it. And now we can talk about coverage and go into that in depth at a different time. But when you're just looking at just plain stats and you're looking at what they both did on the field last year and like a Brian Branch who was a massive impactful player as a rookie, mind you that like as a rookie, a second round pick, what he did for this Lions defense, like he had all better stats than the guy in Justin Simmons last season who ended up getting second team all pro anyways. So it's like he's going to go out there, he's going to put up way more numbers than Justin Simmons will this year, and you're moving him out of the nickel to just a pure safety, and you're putting him in the right position. Like guys, listen, like Brian Branch is going to go out there and have a way better season than a guy like Justin Simmons, who just was second team all pro. So like that comparison, I remember we did that comparison before. Like I think Brian Branch is going to take a massive step. You heard the doc in there talking about how Brian Branch just looks different when he's in training camp and in practice. He looks like a completely different player, and that's a positive. Like, think about how good he was last year, and he looks different this year. This kid's going to – I think I almost want to say he's a lock for an all-pro safety. He is a lock. He will be an all-pro safety this season. There's no, like, ifs, ands, or buts. Like, he will be an all-pro safety this season. With Jahmyr Gibbs, you can make the argument that he will be an all-pro running back. I'm not going to sit here and say it's a lock, especially with guys like Derrick Henry going to the Ravens, going to have an opportunity. Saquon Barkley's going to hopefully most likely stay healthy in the Eagles. Like there's going to be situations around the league. Brian Branch will be an all-pro safety this season. There is no question about it. And I will go to battle with anyone in the chat or anyone who says he's not going to be. We can talk about it off to the side and we can have a different conversation about how maybe you just don't
talk outside. Let's talk outside.
Yeah.
Brian Branch, I think it's just the reason you have to pick him is because it is a lock. Like, knock on wood, outside of injury, this guy will be an all-pro safety, and I don't think there's a question behind it.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. All right, let's get to our conference winners. I love this.
College football, baby. Can't wait.
Yeah. Yep, our college football. We did it yesterday. Get to our Heisman finalists. I had an interesting one yesterday. If you missed out, go back and watch that segment. Boys were having some discussions. It was fun. Today we're going to do conference winners. Booner, I'll let you kind of cook on this. You can go first. Do you guys want to do division? We'll do like conference winners and go through them all, or go one at a time.
So what we'll do. We'll just do the Power 4 conferences. We'll just do SEC, Big 12, ACC, and Big 10.
Do you want to go through them all when you go, or you would? We'll
start off. We'll just go around the room. Like
let's start with Big 10. Let's do that. Let's do Big 10.
All right,
Should
if
we
you want to do the Big Ten first, I was
Yeah.
going to do that last, but hey, let's do the Big Ten first then.
Yeah.
Do you guys want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. Who do you got winning the Big Ten?
All right, so this might be a shock to some people, and I think that obviously the clear favorite to win the Big Ten, we all know it's Ohio State. You know what Ryan Day is, and I know some people think Ryan Day is the savior and he's going to win a national championship. Some people hate this guy. I don't really. I'll sit here in the middle, and I'm not going to have a massive. You know what? The opinion on Ryan Day is he wins football games. It's about winning the big game, though, at the end of the day. But there's a guy in my mind, Dan Lanning, I think over in Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, who gets the job done in the Big Ten this year. My pick to win the Big Ten. I'm rolling with Oregon, guys, and I know it feels crazy, and everyone thinks Ohio State is the best team in football, maybe outside of Georgia. People think it's Georgia, Ohio State, Georgia. I think there's an argument to be made that a team like Oregon, and there's maybe another team or two in college right now that is going to compete for that best team spot. And I don't care really, to be honest, if Ohio State, who they return, what transfers they have, anything like that. This Oregon team, what Dan Lanning's done with this Oregon team, what he did with Bo Nix, we talked about it with the Heisman stuff yesterday. This guy he needs to go. He still is progressing as a coach, but I think going into the Big Ten, I think he finds a way to get it done. Like with Dylan Gabriel coming from Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel is probably, in my opinion, the best quarterback in college football going into this year. I picked them to win the Heisman. And they as well, just like Ohio State, they return 10-plus starters as well. And they bring in weapons. They return an elite wide receiver core. They went out and got some wide receivers. They gave him the weapons to do it. And as well, on the top of all of this, guys, which is swept under the rug, and I know Ohio State, top 10 defense. Oregon had a top 10
1 defense.
Oregon?
No, I'm saying.
Ohio State, I really don't care. But hold on, but Oregon has a top 10 defense as well. So when you're talking about it, no, this isn't a scrub team. If you have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense in college football, you are elite and you have a chance to win a national championship. I think when it comes down to it, I think in the regular season, Oregon may drop the game to Ohio State and they might fall to 11-1. But they will meet back up in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. And guess who's going to win that game? Dan Lanning is going to figure out what the reason was they lost. And he's going to go into Indianapolis and he's going to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Booner, I would love to say that I hate your take. I would love to say that as an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, but I don't. But here's the thing. Oregon, they're going to be a great football team this year, but they're not winning the Big Ten. And I'm going with the flip-flop of you as far as the matchups. I think when Ohio State goes into Eugene, they're going to lose that game. I just think it'll be very difficult. And I like I said, I think Oregon could be the second or third best team in the country, but Ohio State, in my opinion, just is the first. I think they have the best defense. They had all those guys returning, and then they add the number one player in all of NIL with Caleb Downs coming from Alabama. He was the best player on Alabama's defense last year. And now you're adding him to a secondary that's already stacked, the front seven that's already stacked. And then, on the offensive side of the ball, whole entire offensive line is returning pretty much, and you added Quinshon Judkins, and they're going to have by far, I don't even think it's a question at this point, the best 1-2 punch in the running back duos in all of the country. You bring in a guy like Jeremiah Smith, who as a true freshman is going to be putting up numbers. And the thing that really sways Ohio State over Oregon for me is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is finally going to understand, okay, at Ohio State, it looks like with all the weapons you can have, we can air the ball out 30, 40 times a game. Ohio State, when they are dominant in the Big Ten, is a running team. Chip Kelly and the Ohio State Buckeyes are going to run for over 2,000 yards this year, and they're going to have the number one defense in the country. I think there is points, like when you go into Eugene, that's just a tough environment to win in. I think that Ohio State could absolutely drop that. When you just look at it, this team has been in Big Ten championship games before. They've been in big games before. They haven't been able to get over that hump, but I think this is the year where they kind of get that monkey off their back, and I think that they're going to be the best team in the country, and they're going to win the Big Ten.
This one was tough for me because I even earlier when I was prepping, I'm thinking about, I'm like, dude, I'm going either way. And I even talked to you the other day, Booner, about it, how I think that when Ohio State goes to Oregon, they lose, but then Ohio State gets them back. So that's where I'm at. I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten, but I'm so hesitant because what worries me is two things. One, two things. Head coach, quarterback. And I'm looking at Oregon. They have the advantage, I think, as of right now, like with Dan Lanning, where he's at. That's what worries me. But as a roster and with the addition of Chip Kelly, I think Chip's going to do a lot of great things for you guys, Lucas. I do. I think his focus now with who you have at running back, Chip Kelly's coming in. He'll handle the run game. Ryan Day can do the passing concepts and worry about the passing game. And I do think Chip will help him a lot. And I think you would agree with this because you've been talking about this forever. If they don't do it this year, he's fired. I mean, get Ryan Day out of there.
Yes.
You have
100%.
He has the roster he has. So I'm going to lean Ohio State, but it's close. I think Ohio State loses in Oregon, but they end up getting them back and beating Oregon to win the Big Ten championship. So we'll move forward. I want to spend more time on that because obviously Big Ten or in Michigan, so it matters more. I hate saying that, by the way, Ohio State winning the Big Ten, but it is what it is. We'll go to SEC. All right, SEC. Who you guys got winning? I don't think we might all agree here, unless someone else has a different answer. But I have Georgia winning the SEC, even though I like Alabama a lot. But I don't think they do it this year. No way. Georgia.
Yeah, I'm Georgia as well. I mean, Georgia's lost one game in 2 seasons, and they returned Carson Beck, who very underrated quarterback. People are like, "Oh, Georgia's just Georgia." So Carson Beck's pretty. He's good. Like go watch some film. Carson Beck can play football, so I'm gonna go Georgia. There's a lot of teams in the SEC that can obviously win it. Ole Miss, Alabama, like Tennessee has a chance to win it this year. Like there's a handful of SEC schools that can do it. I just think Georgia's the best team in all of football. Like they're extremely good.
Yeah, I gave it to Georgia. I was kind of fighting a little bit with Texas, but I just think Texas, I think at some point there will be a culture shock for them going from the Big 12 to the SEC. And I just think the nutrition of the schedule as it goes on, they're going to be dropping a game or two. They're still going to be in the college football playoffs. But I just think when you match a team like Texas up to compare to a team like Georgia, I just think physically, Georgia's a team that can just run Texas out of the blow the brakes off the game, and just by the halftime they could be over with. Even though they got Quinn Ewers, I just think at some point all those weapons, even Jonathan Brooks that they lost at Texas, is going to take some impact when you're in the SEC, because every SEC team, at least like the Ole Misses, the Georgias, the Bamas, they got 2 first-round wide receivers potentially on the outside every year.
Well, you were mentioning earlier in the group chat too, Lucas, and someone brought it up. Ole Miss, like a couple teams that could be factors. Ole Miss, I mean, obviously Alabama, but I don't. But Ole Miss is a sneaky one.
Yeah. Ole Miss too, because they're another team that has 2 NFL wide receivers on the outside, and they don't play Alabama or Tennessee. I think they're going to be beating LSU. They're going to be beating Oklahoma. I don't have any worries about that. So when you look at Ole Miss, I think it's like week 9 they played Georgia. That could easily be their only loss of the schedule. And now with how the college football is arranged, it's not SEC West, SEC East. It's who are the best overall records in the SEC. And Ole Miss at the end of the season is most likely going to be looking at 1. I don't see them dropping 2 games in the regular season. So I think it's going to be Georgia and Ole Miss in the SEC championship game. And I don't like Ole Miss's chance, but I think with Jackson Dart, you have a chance.
I will say this though, real quick, Klotz. To that point, like if you look at Texas and Alabama, like Texas's 2 games, Michigan, Georgia, those are the 2 biggest games, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss, LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia, and then Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia. Like essentially those 3 teams that are on like right on the outside, like they all have the same kind of schedule essentially, and then they play the lower half of the SEC or like mid SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So like those 3 teams probably all sit there with 1 or 2 losses, and it might come down to just a tiebreaker with one of them. Like if one of them could somehow upset Georgia, or if one of them drop a game versus Oklahoma, like that's what it's going to come down to. Like those 3 teams are in the same tier as me, and it's going to come to. And I think Tennessee is almost in there. I guess I have to see Tennessee's full schedule, but I think they're essentially in the same. Yeah, I just think they're essentially in the same spot. So.
It just goes back to me. I think Ole Miss, they know what to expect being in the SEC. I think there's some games, like I think like if Texas goes in kind of sleepwalking a little bit, I think Texas and Oklahoma both could be teams that kind of get smacked around against the SEC team. Like I'm making up a team, but like a Mississippi State or a Texas A&M. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Mississippi State's the worst team in college football.
You get what I'm saying. Just like a middle tier, like SEC team that's been able to win games. Arkansas, somebody like that. I could easily see Oklahoma, Texas, like those type of teams, like get smacked around for a second, because Texas, they got a lot of transfers and a lot of young guys. That's
where in the past though, that's where Lane Kiffin messes. Like Lane Kiffin loses either he'll lose just this random game, or he just can't win the big game versus Georgia or Bama.
Mm-hmm.
Like they play Oklahoma. Like can he win that big Oklahoma game? Like that's where Lane Kiffin. He's had all of these teams. He's had these quarterbacks. Like. it feels like the last 2 or 3 years we've been like, oh, Lane Kiffin's going to do it this year. Oh, they're top 10. He's going to do it. And then guess what? You go into that week and Lane Kiffin drops the game. And you're like, what? Like, this guy cannot figure it out. Like, I hope he does, and I think he does this year, but it's the same old story with Ole Miss. And you guys already know, I've been vocal. I'm a Lane Kiffin fan, so I want Lane Kiffin to go do that. It's just more so, it's like, it's just the last couple of years, it's been a repeat. Like, it's like you have your just same song on repeat.
What they did with the offensive line is what makes me like, okay, I'm chilling. Their offensive line improved drastically.
Well, hey, don't let Tennessee get in the don't let Tennessee get sneaking.
Go ahead,
there.
let it fit your narrative, Jeff.
It's fitting the narrative. All right, anyway, we'll move on. Big 12. I have Utah winning the Big 12. So Cam Rising, we all know the dude's 35 years old in college. He's very, very good quarterback. And I think Utah, we know their defense, what it's always been. And just looking at the Big 12 right now, it's like, how do you not pick Utah? Unless someone else has a different go ahead and make an argument. But I'm going to go Utah.
Boone?
You go, Klotzy.
I want to say Utah. I really do, and I'm going to, but I was fighting between them and Arizona. I think Arizona is a team that's going to be highly slept on. I think they're going to have one of the most lethal quarterback wide receiver combos. You look at the defensive side of the ball, they have a cornerback that I see. I think it's like something Davis, Demario Davis.
He's good.
Decario Davis is what it is. He's going to be a first-round cornerback taken. They got Justin Flo. They got a lot of pieces, and if you watch them at the second half of the year last year, they were a top 15 team. And I just think with all the returning offensive linemen they have, again, they have a top 10 potential pick on the offensive line. A lot of people are confident in Penei Sewell. They got weapons everywhere. And I think if there's a team that's going to upset Utah, and I think there is a real shot, like if Utah and Arizona were to play in the Big 12 championship game, I don't think you can just hand that to Utah. So I have Utah winning it, but Arizona is going to make it close.
I'll say this. The Big 12 is probably the most open conference with like Oklahoma State, Arizona, Kansas, Kansas State, Utah. Like it's going to be a great conference. There's no team that is going to beat Utah this year in the Big 12. Like Utah has a scheduled, their only hard game is they go on the road to Oklahoma State. They play Arizona, but guess what? They play at home. And you do not beat Utah at home. Doesn't happen. Correct. Kyle Whittingham does not lose at home. And now you're sitting there and you're going, I'm drawing a blank here. My guy, Cam Rising. You have Cam Rising back, and yeah, he had a year off in an injury. Cam Rising's Cam Rising. He's a 25-year-old veteran quarterback who probably 25-year-old. That's an NFL type of player. I mean, this kid was so good 2 years ago. I remember doing pregame shows on Saturdays. Shout out at him and with Jeff and talking about Cam Rising. And this kid just every single Saturday. It might have been Adam that year to where it just constantly was like, don't bet against Utah. Don't bet against Utah. And there was a couple weeks where I was like, I'm betting against Utah. And I learned my lesson. Like I was like, Utah, you do not mess with. Even last year without Cam Rising, they never lost at home. They just do not lose at home. And then at the same time, their only road game, like true road game that's tough, is Oklahoma State. And I think they find a way, like, Ollie Gordon, obviously, but guess what? Kyle Whittingham's going to do. He's always got a defense, and he's going to find a way to stop you, and he's going to do it. They're going to probably, in my opinion, they'll be undefeated, a top 4 seed in the college football playoffs. That's Utah for you. I did. Yeah. Hey, happens. I've seen you pull that before. Don't do that to me.
So this is where I think this one was ACC.
This one's kind of easy, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, I'll tell you who I went with, and I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it was. I kind of thought about it. I don't know. You say it was easy. I'm excited to hear your answer. I'm going with Florida State. I'm going with Florida State, but I kind of Klotzy got me. No. I kind of like Miami. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You do. You looked at that schedule Miami. Too. You looked at that Miami Hurricane schedule too.
I'm on a show with guys that fall for anything.
No, I'm gonna go Florida State, but I don't hate it, man. It was tough. I don't know. I can't wait to hear Boone's. He said it was easy.
You got to be thinking Clemson.
Go ahead, Klotz.
Look, it's Miami. I'm gonna read you off their schedule. They have at Florida 3:30. They're winning that game. I think Miami, that's a game that they're going to win. Graham Mertz is not going to be a better quarterback than Cam Ward, and Miami has a better roster. Then they're at Florida A&M. Then they're versus Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville, Their biggest game is home against Florida State. Then they're on the road at Duke, at Georgia Tech, home against Wake Forest and Syracuse. Miami, realistically, could be a one-loss team, potentially, if everything goes right, undefeated heading into the ACC championship game. I expect them to either meet Florida State or Clemson. The thing that does make me nervous if they beat Florida State the second time, I do like DJ Uiagalelei a lot, and that defensive front for Florida State is going to be ferocious.
Yep.
But I just think when you look at the weapons they have on the outside, with Damian Martinez, I can't think of his name right. The backup running back's a fucking pounder. His last name's Fletcher. I can't think of his name, but they have a really good 1-2 punch in the backfield in their offensive line. I haven't been the biggest fan of how they've been coaching recently, but what they did up front, they have 5 stars all over the place. They went out in the transfer portal, got some guys. Miami's got a really good team. I know that the U's kind of like been looked at like almost like an Ole Miss, where it's like, all right, they always got a really good roster, but at some point the season's going to fall apart. With how the schedule is constructed, I mean, they don't play Clemson at all. They're not playing North Carolina. They don't even play North Carolina State. Like, they're missing out on pretty much all the tough teams in the ACC outside of Florida State. Miami's going to be in the ACC championship game, and with Cam Ward, I like their shot.
Hey, Xavier Restrepo.
Xavier, hey, that's like Roman Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be probably second-round pick at the floor.
I got to just can't convince me. All right, go on, Boone. I got to lock in Florida.
Yeah,
State.
I mean, to me, it's just as simple as this, and I get it. You guys are going to fall for the Miami hype again. A lot of people are. I love it, whether you get transfers or not, Cam Ward or not. Let's not forget, Mario Cristobal has won 6 games his first year and 7 games his second year. And let's not forget, Mario Cristobal had the transfer portal last offseason and the offseason before that. Yeah. There's nothing that has changed in college football outside of the 12-team playoffs over the last year.
The recruiting class. Did you see the recruiting class?
Let me finish this. I have seen the recruiting class. That's why I said this year, I don't care what he did in the transfer portal and the recruiting class. Like, that is all cute and good. Mario Cristobal hasn't like sat there and showed you anything. And yeah, Cam Ward, that's awesome. Cam Ward's going to be really good. I just don't trust Mario Cristobal at all. Like, I don't trust Miami at all. Like, this hype happens every couple of years. Guess what comes out of it? Nothing. Like, last year, they started the season, what, like 5-0, 4-0, and everyone's like, oh, Miami's back. Guess what happened? They finished with 7 wins. Like, it just, to me, it's like, I get like the hype of the transfer portal, the hype of the recruiting class. I'm just more so on a realistic standpoint here. Like with Florida State, Jeff, I get that. Again, it's the same thing with DJ Uiagalelei, or however you pronounce his name. Like, he couldn't do it at Clemson. And then he goes to Oregon State and has a little bit of success. Really
fucking good.
Like, he's good, but why couldn't he do that at Clemson? Like, there's problem. Like, just because a guy does it for a year, it's like, oh, things turn. Like, no, he struggled at his career at some point.
There's quarterbacks every year. Continue.
All right, yeah. Let's finish this real quick. But like, I just lose my mind here. I've got Clemson winning it. Dabo Swinney, Cade Klubnik. I just think they're going to be back. I think Dabo's back. You talk about an easy schedule, like. Yeah, every ACC school right now probably has an easy, like, they play NC State and they play Florida State. They're going to beat both of them. They're probably going to have one loss because they play Georgia to open up the year. And then after that loss, they're probably not going to lose the rest of the year. And they're going to meet in the ACC championship. Fine, we could say Miami or Florida State. They're going to beat them in the ACC championship. Give me Dabo Swinney, the guy who wins those games. He hasn't the last couple of years, but he's going to be back this year. And people are going to be like, all right, Clemson might be not fully back, but they're going to win the ACC and go to the college football playoffs. Simple as that. And then this is a conversation we could talk about at the end of the season.
Yeah, well, you know what? There you go. Those are our conference winners for college football. Can't wait for college football, man, because we'll be doing our own breakdowns and stuff like that, talking a lot of college football as it approaches. But we appreciate you guys so much. Had a blast today, all of you. Thank you so much for your constant support. 9,000 subscribers. We can't just let that slide. It's huge. Get your merchandise. I showed off some new things that we're working on and that are up on the website now. New things that are continuing to be worked on. Shout out to Roman for all his
long
work.
Sleeves will be in soon.
Absolutely. Check out the link in the chat. Get your merch. Continue to do what you guys do, which is tune into the live show. Until tomorrow,
love you guys.
Appreciate the doc as well. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you guys. Stay blessed out there. See ya.